Welcome to HOJO Radio.
And now a radio crime drama that ran on CBS from February 27th, 1949 to August 1st, 1954. Produced and directed by Elliot Lewis, the opening theme of I'll Take Manhattan introduced Detective Danny Clover, played by Larry Thor, a hardened New York cop who worked homicide from Times Square to Columbus Circle, the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world. We present to you Broadway's My Beat.
Broadway's My Beat. From Times Square to Columbus Circle, the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world. Broadway's My Beat, with Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover. Broadway, it's a time and a place and a state of mind where you bang your head against the wall so the lights will be brighter, the noise is louder, thereby furnishing proof that you're enjoying yourself. And at holiday season, you bang your head harder and conjure up visions, the new year, the new promises, the golden girl who will smile to you from the crowd and beckon. It could happen. It's Broadway, My Beat. There's a place on Broadway. It nudges onto Columbus Circle and calls itself the Dover Hotel, then retires into its own faded respectability. At 8 o'clock of a cold weekday morning, Broadway walks past it on its way to work. So was I when a man darted out of its doorway, saw me, darted some more, and tugged at my sleeve. He said he knew me, knew I was a policeman, and that's what he needed. So then we were in an elevator, and he said his name was... What did you say your name was?
Box, Louis Box.
Well, just what seems to be your trouble, Mr. Box?
I said to myself, Mr. Box, there's trouble in room 812. Big trouble. Oh, very big, Mr. Clover. He won't answer. He won't let Mr. Box in.
He won't? Who won't? Who won't, Mr. Box?
The guest in 812, right this way, Mr. Clover, right down the hall. Every time I open my door, he throws a bottle at Mr. Box's head.
Has he hit Mr. Box?
3 times, here, and here, and here. This is the room. Mr. Box will unlock the door for you. Now
you'll go back to your desk, and Mr. Clover will go in.
Very well, but just be careful of those bottles. He always aims at Mr. Box's head.
Yeah, don't worry. All right, you. Hey, what are you... Put down that bottle. I said put it down. That's better. Now tell me what's so funny.
It's funny, mister. The funniest thing, look, it's all here in this paper. Go ahead, mister. Read it for yourself.
Yeah. Hey, this paper's 2 days old.
Sure it is. On account I got it 2 days ago. Go ahead, read that obituary right where I'm pointing.
John Lomax, victim of hit-and-run accident, was buried today at the Queen Cemetery. He was survived by his wife, Martha
Lomax of 36 Darcy Place. I called for a drink. I'm Lomax, mister. I'm John Lomax.
Huh?
Sure. And Martha's my wife. Look, I'll tell you about it.
I'm looking. Tell me.
4 nights ago. Yeah, it was 4 nights ago when whoever was supposed to be me was hit and run. I went to a Turkish bath. You know.
So you had a bath, so?
So they stole my overcoat and they stole my wallet. Rolled me. But I was too smart for them.
Yeah, you sure were. How were you too smart for them?
I had some money rolled up in my shirt sleeve. Trick I learned in the Navy. Enough to pay for booze in this crummy room. That calls for another drink.
How long have you been here?
Since then, I saw the papers. I've been laughing ever since.
Why don't you go home?
I'll tell you why.
Tell me.
I think my wife is happy I'm dead. Yeah. Yeah, she is.
Mr. Lomax. Hey, Mr. Lomax. A grinning mask of foolish delight and monthly bliss arranged itself on the face of John Lomax. And having so arranged itself, Mr. Lomax proceeded to fall flat on same. John Lomax had been hilarious because another man died bearing his name and identity. So much happiness over the dead makes me curious. So I went out to the home of John Lomax in Queens. It was like every other home on the block. Even the cracks in the stucco were identically placed. But what made the Lomax home different was it had a different number over its doorbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Lomax? This is John Lomax?
Yes.
I'm Danny Clover of the police, Mrs. Lomax.
Police?
Now, don't be frightened, Mrs. Lomax.
Well, come in, Mr. Clover. Please come in.
Thank you.
Oh, I pick up these things. The woman's pajamas look so lost just lying on a chair. Here, sit here, Mr. Clover.
Thanks. It's about your husband, Mrs. Lomax.
What?
When did you see him last?
Forgive me, Mr. Clover, but I don't quite understand what you're driving at. My husband is dead. We buried him 2 days ago.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mrs. Lomax. I'm sorry, it's just that... Well, how are you sure it was your husband who died?
What? Oh, you mean because he was so badly smashed up in the accident? I knew him because it was his wallet they found on the dead man. And John's overcoat.
Maybe that wasn't enough. Maybe it was someone else.
It wasn't. I know because there was a card in the coat advertising the Baghdad baths. John always went there for days on end instead of home.
What did your husband look like, Mrs. Lomax? Do you have a picture of him I could see?
I'm afraid not. After the funeral, I tore up every picture of John and of John and me that was in the house. John was dead. And it was done. Can you understand that?
Will you describe him to me? I mean a physical description. Coloring, weight.
John was 5'11". He had a paunch. I mean, he weighed about 180 pounds. He was overweight. He had thin, sandy hair and kind of faded blue eyes. And a kind of funny, loose face.
Fits.
What?
Mrs. Lomax, there's something...
Oh,
Martha, I got the papers. You missed me, doll? Oh, who?
Paul, this is Mr. Danny Clover of the police department. He was asking about John.
What do you want to know about John Lomax and why?
Mrs. Lomax, you haven't introduced me to your friend.
Oh, how silly of me. I was so flustered when Paul just walked in without knocking or anything.
You gave me the key so I could run out for the papers, remember, doll?
Oh, of course. I thought it would be simpler that way. This is Paul Rand, Mr. Clover. A very talented pianist. A sort of protege of John and me.
Of you, doll. I'm sorry I haven't the mood to play something for you, Mr. Clover. So you'll tell me instead what there is about John Lomax you're bothering Martha about.
Hey, I'll tell you, protege. There's a drunk in the Dover Hotel who says he's John Lomax, and he says John Lomax is not dead, never did die. You think maybe he's lying?
Of course he's lying. My husband is dead. Isn't he, Paul?
Yeah, sure, doll. Dead. What are you building, policeman? Who are you going to believe, a drunk or a widow? Get out of here. Leave her alone.
The look on their faces was like a motion picture you watch where suddenly the action is frozen and still. A boy, maybe 24, with an animal's hard grace, the lips drawn tight away from his teeth, the eyes wary and stagnant. And the woman, more mature, gentler, almost pretty. But in her eyes, nothing she wants you to see. A telephone directory gives you the address of the Baghdad baths, so you go there because you have to sweat out some questions on a man who says he's John Lomax and not deceased. You walk up 3 flights of a dank building on 9th Avenue, and there's a dank card that says Baghdad Baths, Ephraim Sabo, proprietor, Waldo Toklas, proprietor. You walk in, ask for Ephraim or Waldo of a receptionist who's beating her eyelashes, and she winks you back to the steam room. Hey, Ephraim! Hey, Waldo!
Wants to see me have to come in here.
Maybe you better come out. It's the police, Ephraim. Or is it Waldo?
It's Ephraim and I can't come out. I'm naked.
Put on a towel and come out.
You off-duty policeman? Well, you come to the right place. Nothing like Baghdad baths to draw out of a man what's bothering him.
Yeah, I bet. Ephraim, you know a man named John Lomax?
Know him well. John Lomax used to come here every weekend. Like for his pores to feel good. Hasn't been here lately, though.
Maybe because you rolled him. Stole his overcoat and wallet.
You from the police, you say?
That's what I said.
Yeah, we rolled him. Stole those things. But then Waldo stole them from me.
Your partner? Where is he?
Disappeared. Walked out of here with Mr. Lomax's belongings, which belonged to me by squatter's rights. And he disappeared.
How long has he been gone?
4 or 5 days. For all I care, he could have dropped dead because he sinned against me.
I got news for you, Ephraim. He may have done just that.
Waldo? Dropped dead? When?
4 or 5 days ago, maybe. Hit and run, maybe.
You mean Waldo was in an accident?
Maybe.
Why didn't I know about it? I'm all he's got.
Because he sinned and stole another man's overcoat and wallet. So he was buried under an assumed name, maybe. John Lomax, maybe.
Maybe. Maybe you ain't sure.
Maybe I ain't. But I'm sure of one thing. You sinned, too. Ephraim?
Uh-huh.
Change that towel for something more formal. We're going for a ride.
Danny, you're coming in late this morning. It's 11:30 in the a.m.
All right, come in here, Tataglia.
Yeah, Danny.
Shut the door.
Yeah, sure. Oh, what's up, Danny?
A riddle is up. A guy is killed in a hit-and-run accident, identified as John Lomax, buried as John Lomax. Now, I'm not sure he's John Lomax.
Hey, that's a good riddle.
Yeah, it gets better. There's a guy sleeping it off at the Dover Hotel who says he's John Lomax.
He does? Who? Who does, Danny?
Tataglia, you know what I'd do if I were sergeant?
Oh, yeah, Danny, sure. If you were a sergeant, you would send an order for the exhumation of the body of the first-mentioned Lomax. The dead Lomax.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'd do. Do it.
Yeah, sure, Danny, sure. What are you going to do on account of you're a lieutenant?
I'm going to dig up a live man who calls himself Lomax. I want to introduce him to a woman who calls herself his widow.
So I said to myself, Mr. Box, this man has indeed some pride left after all.
Yeah, what made Mr. Box say that?
Because the guest in 812 took a shower a few minutes ago. That's a good sign on New Year's Eve. Mr. Box is happy for him.
I'll take the elevator back down, Mr. Box. I'll find my way to 812 myself. Mr. Lomax. Come on, Lomax. Open the door. Lomax.
Break it down! Break down the door!
Yeah. I can't. I've got a key. Come on. Come on.
You caught Mr. Box?
Give me your pass key.
You what?
Give me the key.
Of course, here you are. Oh, wait for Mr. Box.
Lomax, it's Danny Clover.
Did he do it, Mr. Clover? Did he turn over a new leaf? My goodness, what's that fire escape window doing open, letting in that cold
Window.
air?
Mr. Bucks, now you can say to yourself, you can say, a murderer threw a man out of a window in my hotel.
You are listening to Broadway's My Beat, starring Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover. $53,000 in cold hard cash and wonderful prizes. What a wonderful ending that would be to the old year. Well, Sing It Again is coming along with all that in the jackpot tonight, and some smart CBS listener can knock it off by solving the Phantom Voice riddle. Sing It Again is heard on most of these same CBS stations. So a $53,000 Happy New Year, maybe. Happy New Year anyway, for Sing It Again is heard every Saturday night.
On the happy holidays, Broadway wears the happy clothes, complete with happy masks. The wooden barriers are up in the shop windows, and Broadway's herd stampedes down the long alley. The dust it raises is confetti. Whirlwinds of confetti, bursts of confetti that explode and play like marvelous fountains. The jewels of light they reflect is the light of neon and Mazdas. There's a Mazda at police headquarters, too. It casts a veil of yellow light, and it hangs in the long concrete hallway that leads to the morgue. When the sergeant speaks, it makes a cold echo.
Now, Danny.
Okay, Tetagler. Ephraim?
My, that's neat. Could use something like that down at Baghdad Baths. Slide 'em in, then slide 'em out when they're done. $5, please. Shouldn't make no quips in here, should I?
Who is this man, Ephraim?
It's a little hard to tell. Could be John Lomax. Same who used to habituate my sweat baths. Same he and Waldo stole from. The same John Lomax who'd drink more so he could perspire more. Could be. Hey, you fellas come up with Waldo yet?
Take Ephraim out of here, Tetagler, and send Mrs. Lomax in.
Yeah, Danny, sure. Come on, Ephraim. Hey, look, did you say that these baths are really good for the system?
Ain't nothing like it, kiddo.
Why did you have me brought here, Mr. Clover?
I want you to identify a man. A man who was murdered. A man who once told me you were his wife.
Is that the man?
You tell me, Mrs. Lomax.
I never saw him before in my life. There is a kind of resemblance, but I never saw him. I don't understand why you want to torture me, Mr. Clover.
You say this man is not your husband.
No. Please, Mr. Clover. Please take me out of here.
All right. Mrs. Lomax, did your husband carry insurance?
Is that going to help you find out who ran down my husband?
Maybe. I don't know.
My lawyer is handling all that. Harold Quillen in the craft building. He is a lawyer. He answers rude questions. Why don't you ask them of him?
Yeah, I'll do that, Mrs. Lomax. You can go home now. It didn't wear well, her casual way of considering the insurance, for example. Things like insurance need worrying about. How else can a helpless widow buy her daily needs, whatever were her daily needs? That's why I'm a policeman. I can't get my mind off details like that. They tweak me, and I need to know answers. So I went to the lawyer named Harold Quillen and asked for some cooperation.
Why don't you stop bothering that poor woman, Mr. Clover?
Well, I'm not bothering her, Mr. Quillen. It's you. And as far as I can see, we're just chatting. Isn't that what we're doing? Well, isn't that what we're doing? Answer me.
Oh, does my rocking in this swivel chair annoy you? I find it restful. Rhythmic. Restful.
When was the last time you were disbarred for non-cooperation, Quillen?
Come now.
Look, friend. I know it's your job to protect your client. That's my job, too. To protect Mrs. John Lomax, and she needs protecting. From my nasty little mind that makes me think sometimes that everybody's a potential murderer. You, me, everybody.
But I don't
And
see...
since Mrs. John Lomax is pretty close to what's a murder, my nasty little mind makes her pretty close to being a murderer. How much insurance did her husband carry?
$50,000.
For accidental death?
I was just coming to that. Double indemnity for accidental death. As a corpse, Mr. Lomax is worth exactly $100,000.
A man who is not loved gets killed, and it pays double to his loved one. And $100,000 can buy a lot of things. Can buy back the lost years. A woman can buy them back by getting herself a protege, a boy who can do things with a piano. A boy who can make a woman remember she was once a girl. What all that money bought me was a trip back to Queens, to a house like all other houses on the block, even to not having a mourning wreath on its door. But from this particular house came the sound of big music.
Oh, it's the police again. You know, I can't get it out of my mind you're a door-to-door salesman. Ever in that line of work, Mr. Clover?
Mrs. Lomax, I want to talk to her.
What about? You can tell me. I'm her friend. I get her the morning papers, remember? So talk to me.
Mrs. Lomax.
Go away like the rain. Come again some other day.
Mrs. Lomax.
Mrs. Lomax is not in, Mr. Clover. Sorry, Mr. Clover.
I changed my mind. I'll talk to you, Paul. I came all the way out here, so I might as well talk to somebody.
Come in. Come in, Mr. Clover.
Thanks.
You sure you were never a salesman? That foot in the door gimmick, very professional.
Yeah, I studied.
I told you she's not home. But you don't have to believe that if you don't want to, like you're not believing it now. Look in this closet, policeman. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe she's in here, huh? No, not in here.
Tell me about Martha and you, Paul.
Gladly. Can I tell you the music? I feel better with music. It makes me polite.
Yeah, if it makes you polite.
The romance of Paul and Martha. That's music, like this.
The big musical romance. When did it begin?
Someplace in time, someplace in space.
I'm a square, Paul. I don't understand big talk like that. What month? What year? That's what I understand.
The month? May. What else? Merry, merry month. The year, 1949. Hey, is it still 1949, policeman?
And her husband. When did she tell you about him?
This husband fella? Martha told me he existed, but I never had the pleasure of making his acquaintance. Charming setup, huh?
You never met your patron?
No. Oh, pity. I was going to be so brave and noble and 100% fellow when I met him.
Yeah, I can tell you're a prince, Paul.
Sure. That's what Martha calls me sometimes. Yeah, I was going to tell the old John boy, the deluded husband, who it was deluding him.
Yeah, but you never got the chance.
No. The dope gets himself killed in an accident before I can release him.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul, for the music, for just being you.
You know the way out, huh?
Hi, Danny. What'd you find out?
Maybe a motive, just maybe. See.
Hey, wait a minute, Danny. Don't you want the report on the exhumation?
Yeah, tell it to me.
Well, the prints check with those that are on file on an application for a permit for the Baghdad Bats, made out to one Waldo Tuckless.
Yeah, the drunk was right.
Yeah. Oh, Danny, you got a visitor in your office.
Oh? Who?
Mrs. Lomax. Well, ain't you surprised, Danny?
I'm not surprised at all.
Hello, Mr. Clover.
Mrs. Lomax. You know, Mrs. Lomax, I was just telling Sergeant Tartaglia... I was just telling him I'm not surprised at all.
About what?
Your being here. If you're here to tell me you killed your husband, that'll make two coincidences all at once.
Mr. Clover, you didn't mean what you just said. That's cruel.
That's one of the words they use about violent death. I can even attend it to the death of Waldo Tuckless.
Who?
Waldo Tuckless, a petty thief who also ran a Turkish bath. It goes like this, Mrs. Lomax. Waldo stole your husband's coat and wallet. In the dark, he was run down by a hit-and-run driver, by someone who thought it was your husband, someone who wanted your husband dead.
No, it wasn't like that. Not like that. That's why I came here to tell you. I'm frightened, Mr. Clover. Frightened.
Your upper lip didn't even quiver down there in the morning.
Oh,
Why didn't you tell me then? That was your husband, wasn't it? The dead man downstairs. Why didn't you tell me then?
I'm frightened. Don't you see? Sick. But frightened.
Of whom? Me, Sergeant Tartaglia, your conscience, the pianist, Paul Rand? Which?
Paul.
I just looked around the room. He's not here. Tell me all about Paul Rand.
Paul killed Waldo Tuckless. Ran over him. From the way Tuckless was dressed, he thought it was my husband.
Did he say, pardon me, after he killed him?
Stop it! Stop it! He didn't know. Not until you told him my husband was alive at that hotel. So Paul went there and killed my husband.
You sound glad. Cold. But if you're unemotional about a man's dying, you're glad he's dead.
My husband was a heel. But I didn't kill him. I didn't. I thought it really was an accident until Paul told me what he'd done. Oh, Paul. Paul!
Start with Paul and go on from there.
Paul, he's a killer. He enjoys killing. I'm frightened. Don't you understand? He enjoys it. If he knew I were here, he'd...
Maybe he would. I think we'll go ask him.
again, Martha.
Paul.
You tilt your head backward, Paul, you'll notice company. Me.
Oh, it's you again, Clover.
Yeah, don't bite your lip. You're dreaming this whole thing.
Paul, Oh, Paul.
Come on, doll. What are you trying to say?
This. She's made an honest effort to say you're a killer.
That's what, huh?
Yeah. I'm piecing it all together, and I come up with this. You killed Waldo Toklas. Mistake. You killed John Lomax. No mistake. Reason, a widow with $100,000. Reason for you to be a killer.
Right, as the saying goes, as rain. Martha probably said I didn't mind it either, huh?
Something like that.
That's why I can get dreamy about pointing this gun at you.
You don't have to. I'm not finished talking.
You're finished. Unless your next sentence starts with a prayer, you're just about done.
I'd point that gun at Martha to be smarter.
Rush me, Clover. That way you can die in action.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly that.
Crazy woman. You're crazy.
That's good. Paul's dead. That's good. He needed to be dead.
Yeah, give me that gun, Mrs. Lomax.
Oh, here. Take it. I'm afraid of it. I don't know where I got the courage to pull the trigger.
Emotions, Mrs. Lomax. Sometimes they get the better of us and they make us pull the trigger one way or another.
But don't.
All right, I won't. I wasn't going to.
You weren't? For saving your life?
Did you do that? If you did, if that's what you were thinking about when you had emotions, thanks.
But I shot him because...
Why?
Don't you see? Of course you do. I shot him because he was going to kill you.
That's your version. I've got one.
Don't you have to call your office, report this or something? Paul's dead, you know.
He'll stay that way. Don't be frightened. Not of Paul. Of me.
Of you?
Because you gave it all away.
Give away what? What are you saying?
About Paul, the promises you must have made to him for killing your husband. Whatever kind of love you promised him. Whatever share of $100,000. Things like that.
You knew all the time.
Just recently, when I found out the man you identified as your husband was Waldo Toklas. When Paul told me he never met your husband.
But he didn't.
Of course he didn't. So you had to tell him how your husband was dressed so he could kill him with a car. That would include the coat he was wearing. It was like that, Mrs. Lomax.
Yes. Look.
Hey, get away from that door.
Don't worry, I'm not going to run away. It's the new year, Mr. Clover. It's a time for wishing good things.
Some people do.
You want to know my wish, Mr. Clover?
It won't come true if you tell me.
I know it won't anyhow. But it's this. I wish there was some way, Mr. Clover, it would make my new year a happy one. If there was some way I could kill you.
Broadway's knocking itself to pieces. The celebrants with the funny hats lean out of the windows of the Astor and drop paper cups on the celebrants with the tin horns. There's laughter and crowd and holiday and swirl. And the fine thing, the glance and the words. A Happy New Year. And means it. The Avenue means it with its heart. It happens once a year on Broadway, the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world. Broadway, my beat.
Broadway's My Beat stars Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover and is written by Morton Fine and David Friedkin. The musical score was arranged by Alexander Courage and conducted by Wilbur Hatch, and our pianist was Sam Furman. The program was produced and directed by Elliott Lewis. The cast tonight included Charles Calvert, Jeanette Nolan, Jay Novello, Leo Penn, Fred Howard, Bob Bruce, and Barton Yarborough. Now stay tuned for Sing It Again, which follows immediately on most of these same CBS stations. Joe Walters speaking. This is CBS, where you find Broadway's My Beat every Saturday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
HOJO Radio, We're your old-time radio headquarters. Stay tuned.
Broadway's My Beat, from Times Square to Columbus Circle, the gaudiest, the most violent, the lonesomest mile in the world.
Broadway's My Beat, with Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover.
Broadway. It's a bet you make against the dealers of night, on the blood red of neon, on the black of the searching wind. And the circle spins, a whirlpool of gleaming laughter and splintered whispers, of shrieking steel and the silence of stone. You pray for a win, but it's no good. The red pays off in stained hands, and the black with dust in your mouth. That's how it falls on Broadway. My Beat. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Broadway is still. The spectaculars drowse and the neons yawn. The sounds of the city whisper into the darkness. And last night's headlines fight a losing battle with the wind. Then, it's a burglar alarm from the flower shop, and it's tearing its heart out. Winking light of the florist's sign found her face, then lost it in the shadows, then found it again. She sat primly in a wicker chair through which garlands of camellias and shining green leaves had been woven. Her hand had been pricked by the thorn of a rose she held. And when the lights found her eyes again, they were mocking and sly.
Hey, what you done here, huh? Oh, hi, Danny. What makes?
I heard a burglar alarm. Someone tripped it on their way out the back door.
Oh, and left this dame here to hype rose petals?
Patrolman Meshikoff, do something for me.
Sure, Danny. Want me to book her?
Call homicide. Tell them there's been a murder.
Hi, this is incredible, Mr. Clover. Positively incredible. Wait till the Florist Association hears of this. I shall be blackballed.
A girl has been murdered, Mr. Kupperlein, and you're shocked. Is that all it does to you?
Please, Mr. Clover, don't teach me manners. I've been catering to weddings and funerals all my life.
Remind me to plant something in your lapel. You say you don't know this girl.
No. Can't you do something about her, Mr. Clover? Move her or something? Oh, my beautiful blue. You take your filthy hands off those primroses.
To me, Mr. Kupperlein. Pay attention to me. The primroses will have to fend for themselves.
This is an outrage. Making a shambles of my garden. All because you can't solve a stinking murder of some burglar of a girl.
Don't press me, Kuppelheim. I could forget it says in the book I'm a gentleman.
I know nothing about this, Mr. Clover. Why don't you inquisition my clerk? He closed the shop. He was here all evening. I've never trusted him, never.
Nice boss you got, huh, Mr. Austin? The feeling mutual?
There is mistrust and fright and kindness in all of us, Mr. Clover. Has it not been written in the book?
Yeah. What time did you close the shop, Mr. Austin?
At 11. I always close it for Mr. Kuppelheim at 11.
And this girl, we've found her to be a Miss Joan Gale of the Dunhill Apartments. Does that mean anything to you?
Nothing, I'm afraid. If she were a customer, I'd know it. I wait on people and deliver, and I have a good memory, Mr. Clover. This lady was never in our shop.
Why should someone bring her here to kill her?
Oh, that's a wonderful question, Mr. Clover. I wonder you hadn't thought of it before. May I go home now?
It hurts me to say this, but no. Your primroses will need you. And so it began, the questions and answers that a cop scribbles into his little black book. Against such a time when he can set up a file at headquarters labeled Joan Gale, Death by Murder. The coroner said she was killed by a bullet in her heart. That made me, all of a sudden, a philosopher. I had to inquire into what set of circumstances put the bullet there, at that time, in that place. The next morning, I went to the Dunhill Apartments because Joan Gale's purse said she lived there. I talked to a man because the yawning young woman at the desk just yawned and shook her head. Then yawned some more and pointed at a potted palm of the man sitting beside her who I should talk to. Good morning. My name's Danny Clover.
Oh, that's nice. You got some beef, maybe? See the girl at the desk.
I did. She's sleepy.
Ah, you're a real quick lad. So?
So that makes me an observant cop.
Cop, huh? Well, that makes my name Frank Shepard, houseman. Let's see your buzzer, friend, so I can have a genuine feeling about you.
Yeah, here.
Oh. I did something you don't like?
Joan Gale, I want to look at her room.
Okay, come on. She did something bad? Go ahead, shock me. What'd she do bad?
She got murdered.
Oh, bad as that, huh? Sad, real sad. And here. Joint screams at you, don't it?
It's too dark to tell. Turn on the lights, Frank.
Sure. Better?
Oh, blue lights. What do you know?
That means something?
She have many friends, Frank? Callers?
Tell you the truth about that, Clover. Joan Gale never made me look up from the racing form. Her friends neither. I wouldn't know.
So, no gentleman callers.
And I thought I was being clear as crystal. I wouldn't know.
Who are you?
All right, rumming outside. You want to give this policeman a bad impression of downhill apartment?
Hey, wait a minute. Who's this guy, Frank?
Refugee from 109 down the hall. He greets the gladsome day with a crock. Yesterday, he stumbled into Mrs. Stutman's room while she had her hair in the henna. Didn't you, John?
Oh, sure, me. Tell your friend, mister, today I met good old John.
Oh, that makes you want to fix my tie, huh?
Come on, good old John boy, baby pally. Outside, good old Frank boy.
I watched old Frank boy push his pally on his face into Pally's home in 109. Then Frank boy came back and was the model of a house stick with the economy-size helping hand. We searched Joan Gale's apartment, found a lot of things. Things that pieced together the life of Joan Gale by night and by day. Things that made Frank boy all happy inside. But there was nothing that added up to her dying in a bed of cut flowers. Back at headquarters, there were more fragments, more scraps of a woman's life. Sergeant Tartaglia offered them to me.
This is Joan Gale, Danny. She had a slight record in Scranton, PA. For disturbances of the peace, for questioning, for, you know, Danny.
Yeah. The alibis of Kuppelheim and his clerk, Roy Austin. You had them checked?
Oh, yeah, Danny, sure. It's just like this Mr. Kuppelheim and Mr. Austin told you. Kuppelheim was in the sack. The clerk, Roy Austin, closed up Kuppelheim's flower shop at 11 o'clock. Went home. To the knowledge of his landlord, did not leave the premises till you rousted him out of bed to question him at said Kuppelheim's flower shop.
How do you figure, Tartaglia?
You know, I'm glad you asked me, Danny, because I got a theory. Now, the way I picture this whole crime...
Oh, pardon me.
Surely, Danny. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Danny Clover speaking.
They told me you were handling the Joan Gale murder, Mr. Clover. I believe I can help you with it.
Who is this?
Mrs. Amelia Ripley, 1219 Smedley Place, in Forest Hills, Mr. Clover. I can expect you immediately?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Clover.
Now, as I was saying, Danny, my theory...
Keep it on ice, Tartaglia. I'll come back for it.
Yes? What is it?
I'm Danny Clover. I'm from the police. Mrs. Ripley called...
I'm Mrs. Ripley. Please come in.
Thank you.
You won't mind... Well, that is, I hope you won't mind if we sit in the kitchen and talk.
Not at all.
This way. You see, it's the maid's day off, and I'm cooking. A hollandaise sauce on the stove, batter in the mixmaster. Oh, looks about done. It's the sauce that needs attention. Sit here, Mr. Clover.
Thanks. You said something about Joan Gale, Mrs. Ripley.
I never saw her in my life, Mr. Clover. But I knew her.
I don't understand it.
Have a cup of coffee, Mr. Clover. I knew her because my husband knew her.
Oh, I see.
Of course you don't see. My husband sees her and comes home to me. He comes home and strokes my hair and calls me wonderful names that I thought he'd forgotten. And he kisses me.
Mrs. Ripley...
I found out about Joan Gale months ago. I've always known it was a woman, but I just happened to find out her name was Joan Gale.
Why are you telling me?
Revenge is a funny word to be coming out of a housewife's mouth, isn't it? My husband is mixed up with a woman who's been murdered. I wonder whether I'm going to laugh or cry at what he suffers for it. It's important to me to know which I'll do. Pardon me.
Where's your husband now, Mrs. Ripley?
He called a few minutes ago. He said he was at his place of business. The Ripley shoe distributing business on East 37th.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Ripley. I'll talk to him.
Well, I'll show you to the door. I think I'm glad I talked to you, Mr. Clover.
Oh, you did the right thing. Is this your husband? This picture on the bookcase?
Yes, that's John. Good old John, he likes to call himself. Why, Mr. Clover?
Does he drink?
Why do you ask? Oh, but no, he doesn't drink. I'll say that for him. He doesn't touch a drop.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Clover, it looks bad for John, doesn't it? It's possible that he killed the girl, isn't it?
It not only was possible, from where I stood, it looked like a sure thing. The picture of the John Ripley on the bookcase was the same good old drunken John who had tried to tie my tie in Joan Gale's apartment. The same drunken John who never drank, his wife said. I had to ask him about a little thing like that. About a lot of little things. Ripley? Ripley? No. Oh, no. The shoeboxes of the Ripley shoe distributing business lay in a crazy, wanton pattern around the body of John Ripley. On his face was a loose, embarrassed grin, as if he were ashamed of his clumsiness, ashamed of not knowing how to handle shoeboxes, ashamed of his torn coat, his torn body, of the blood that crowded through the bullet hole in his chest. Now there was nothing to ask of good old John. Nothing. Nothing at all.
You are listening to Broadway's My Beat, starring Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover.
Broadway is a place that can get happy about a lot of things. A wrestler from Argentina who walks on his hands and wrestles with his feet. The honeymoon of Tess Trueheart. And a couple of murders served piping hot for dinner reading. It's the diet Broadway likes. It's a fine way to get fat. My part of it was serving up a few crumbs to the gentlemen in the press room. An arrest is expected momentarily, I told them, and dared them to make 6 paragraphs out of that. They did, and it came out saying the police had no idea who the killer was. Or, as Sergeant Tartaglia phrased it,
Danny, I don't have no idea who the killer is.
well, the last time I talked to you, Tartaglia, you said you had a theory about who killed Joan Gale and Mr. Ripley.
Danny, I got a confession to make.
Confession, huh? You killed him?
No, Danny. I had a theory, and I put it down on paper and added and subtracted, and the answer comes out that they killed each other. Only they died 12 hours apart.
That's interesting. How did you arrive at that?
Well, you see, Danny... you got company, Danny.
I've got to see you right away, Mr. Clover.
Oh, come in. Roy Austin, isn't it? Have a chair, Mr. Austin.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Danny...
don't go, Tartaglia. This is Mr. Austin. He's the clerk at Keppelheim's flower shop.
Hi, Mr. Austin.
How do you do?
What can I do for you, Mr. Austin?
I want you police to protect me. Yes, I demand it.
Why, are you afraid of something?
You would be, too. Here, read this. It was put under my door at my rooming house.
Uh-huh. Dear Roy Austin, make no plans, Mr. Austin, because you will die within a day. Who'd want to write you a note like this? You know?
Of course I don't. That's your job, Mr. Clover. Doesn't that note tell you something?
Not much, except that whoever wrote it tried to disguise his handwriting. That's pretty obvious.
Well, that may be, but it doesn't make me any less frightened.
Mr. Austin, the department will give you all the protection you need.
How?
One of our men will follow you wherever you go and will...
That's not enough. I refuse to leave this building until you apprehend whoever wrote that note.
Mr. Austin.
I refuse to leave this building.
Okay. We'll lock him up, Detective.
Sure, Danny, sure. Hey, Mr. Austin, you play canasta?
Idiot's delight.
Oh, a new game, huh? Well, maybe you can teach me. Where you going, Danny?
To the Dunhill Apartments. There's a house detective there I got to see. Maybe he can teach me.
The idea of busting in, comrade. For this, you can get your face slapped, comrade.
Turn around, Frank. I've got a complaint. I said turn your merry-go-round chair around.
The man with the buzzer. No offense, Clover. It's just I don't like things sneaking up behind my back. Complaint?
Yeah, big complaint. You.
I'm a cooperative kind of louse, Clover, but not that cooperative. Explain it to me first. First, tell me how Mrs. Shepard's little boy has been naughty.
Maybe you ought to stand up when I talk to you, Frank. My words won't have so far to go.
Sure. Anything you say, Mr. Clover. See, I'm standing. You gonna rap my knuckles with a ruler, teacher?
That little play you staged with John Ripley. 4-star, Frank.
I liked it.
Yeah, it was real sincere. Good old John. Play acts a fine drunk. On cue, too.
You don't say. And all the time I thought good old John was crocked to the ears. He wasn't drunk, huh?
Why did you throw him a cue, Frank, boy?
You've been working too hard, detective.
Why did you do that, Frank, boy? Why did you tell Ripley I was a cop before he needed to know? Why did you tell him to act drunk so it could look like a big, boozy mistake his coming into Joan Gale's apartment?
You need a place to lay your head, detective.
Answer me, Frank, boy. Answer me.
An answer? You were proud of me.
Thanks, Frank, boy. I was praying for that.
That's enough.
You didn't ask me my question, Frank. You saw a chance for blackmail, didn't you? Big, fat blackmail. I told you Joan Gale had been murdered. You knew John Ripley was her boy, so you arranged the act. Did he pay off before he was murdered, Frank, because you were so nice to him?
Ripley murdered?
News to you, Frank?
Cross my heart. Hope to die. I didn't know about it. Had nothing to do with it.
What you had to do with Frank? Tell me about that.
It was like you say. Ripley was slipping me a little gratuity all along because he didn't want nobody to know about the Gale thing. When she was killed, the price went up for gratuities. That's all.
Did you get it?
Yeah, from his wife. He didn't have it with him that night. You was here. He called his wife. She paid me off, took him home.
Don't tease me, Frank, boy.
I swear it on a stack. She took him home. The last time I saw Ripley, his wife was scratching his eyes out, and he was crying. On my honor, Danny.
Yeah. Get up off the floor, Frank. I want you to look nice for the boys at headquarters. Frank didn't look nice for the boys at headquarters. A guy like that could spend 3 hours with a barber, then dress in custom-tailored clothes, and still he wouldn't look nice. Before I left headquarters, I looked in on the canasta game between Tartaglia and Roy Austin, then took a ride out to the housewife, Mrs. Ripley. I couldn't make up my mind whether to be sorry for her. I wasn't sure whether she had anything to be sorry about.
I suppose you expected to see me in tears, Mr. Clover.
I wasn't sure. Just how do you feel about your husband's death?
Relieved, I think. Clean.
If you've got any conscience about lying to policemen, you've got to feel some remorse, too. And you lied. You didn't tell me about paying blackmail and bringing your husband home.
I didn't tell you, so I didn't lie.
We can group it under the general heading. Maybe this will do something to you, Miss Ripley. You're in a lot of trouble.
How? How am I in trouble?
You're a murder suspect. Oh, you'd be surprised, Mrs. Ripley. We've had other coffee drinkers murder people. Even a file on murderers who made fine hollandaise sauces.
But why should I?
Why do murderers kill? You had the motive. Joan Gale, because she got along so well with your husband. Your husband, because he got along so well with Joan Gale.
Mr. Clover, listen to me.
All right.
Mr. Clover, I first suspected my husband when he made an unnecessary trip to Scranton.
Scranton, huh?
Yes. John's business interested me. I knew all about it, so I knew he didn't have to go to Scranton on business.
Go on.
When he came back, he suddenly started to send me flowers. Just like that, flowers. Several times a week. That way I knew exactly when he saw Joan, by the flowers.
Flowers, huh? I suddenly make a stab in the dark. Flowers from Kuppelheim.
Yes, that's right. Then, when my husband was in trouble at the hotel, I went there and did what you said I did. Simply because once I married John.
You did that, then?
I brought him home. He told me everything that happened between Joan Gale and himself. Everything.
Uh-huh.
Then he left. Then I called you. I called you because there was the matter of my self-respect.
You're telling me you didn't shoot either one?
I didn't.
There's a grocery store on the corner, Mrs. Ripley. You can go that far so you can get your coffee. I'm going where there's flowers. There might be an unfilled order there. Maybe you'll get some.
me enough torment, Mr. Clover?
My heart bleeds for you, Koppelheim. Put those paddles down and talk.
Gosh, it's no good. You've upset me so. Coming out criticized. Just massacred.
How long have you had John Ripley for a customer?
John Ripley? The shoebox murder case? Oh, yes. See, that is a thrilling.
How long was he your customer?
And he began coming in about the time that clerk of mine started working for me.
Roy Austin?
Yeah. Well, they got along famously, those two, always whispering about something or other. Then Mr. Ripley would place a very big order. I didn't really mind their whispering behind my back.
When did Roy Austin come to work for you?
Why, Mr. Clover? Why do you ask? Is he in trouble? I told you I didn't trust him.
Don't drool at the mouth, Koppelheim. Just answer my question. When did Austin come to work?
It was about 3 weeks ago. He came to me with a letter of recommendation from some queasy little shop in Scranton. I took the chance anyhow because I needed help so desperately.
Scranton. Do you have the letter?
Yes. Yes, of course I have. Wait a minute, I'll find it here. Yes, here it is. Here you are.
I've seen his handwriting before. Where's your phone, Koppelheim?
It's right here in the counter. It's a business phone, Mr. Clover.
Yeah, all right, I owe you a nickel.
What? All right. Not too long.
Sergeant Tartaglia.
Danny Clover, keep Austin happy, Tartaglia. I'm coming up to talk to him.
Oh, you can't do that, Danny. I'm not here. I finally persuaded him it was safe we should go home.
What?
Sure, Danny, sure. I talked him into we should go home. Took a lot of my most clever ruses, but I finally convinced him.
As soon as you call headquarters, Danny, what's up?
Maybe a guy who asked protection of the police, Muggavan, just to throw the police off balance.
Huh?
Maybe a killer. Let's go, this corner house.
Hey, Danny, look. Guy just jumped off the fire escape.
Hey, that's him, Muggavan. Come on. In the alley.
Drop him.
No, I'll fire over his head. Austin! Austin, stop!
Hey, he ain't playing. There he goes, Danny. Turning after Elm Avenue.
Yeah. We gotta catch him, Muggavan. We can't shoot in this crowd.
Hey, look, Danny. Into the building. He's running in there.
I see him. In here.
Rival me?
Beg your pardon, lady. Did a man just come in here? A man in a gray sweater?
In and through that door on the other side of the platform.
Thanks. Stay here, Muggavan. Don't let him get out this way.
Yeah, Danny, sure.
Austin!
I'm up here, Mr. Clover. Somewhere here in the darkness. Think you can find me before I kill you?
His voice plunged down at me, down through the shadows, down the long flight of stairs. Roy was in darkness. That was the advantage he had. Every other step I took was lit up by the screaming light of a big electric sign flashing, "Revival tonight." It shouted through the window, "Revival tonight."
Still alive, Mr. Clover? I'm still alive. Only one piece, Mr. Clover.
For how long, Roy?
What's the matter, Mr. Clover? I'll pull it. I'll trick you, because it'll do you no good.
Come down, Roy. My gun's empty.
Come to me, Mr. Clover. Up these stairs. Come to me. Pray, Mr. Clover. Pray for salvation, because I'm going to hasten your death with this gun. Because you're a sinner.
Joan Gale was a sinner, too, wasn't she, Roy?
Yes, she was. She was my wife. Stratton, did you know that?
No.
Yes, she was. She was good. Until Satan came for her.
That would be John Ripley.
Satan? He took her away from me. Then he came back, and he told me where she was, because he knew I would kill her. Because I am just, and the wages of sin are death.
Then you killed Ripley.
Satan. And now you, Mr. Clover. But you must accept death with innocence, like the lamb. Throw your gun on the floor, Mr. Clover.
Yeah, I'll do that, Roy. Here.
My leg!
Roy!
When I got to him, he was dead. His body lay crumpled and broken at the bottom of the stairwell. On his face, the last drop of ecstasy, the ecstasy he'd reserved for his own dying. When they came for him, it was still there. But frozen now, different now. Like some leering mask of evil. The night slips over Broadway like a black silk stocking splashed with sequins. And Broadway is as flashy as a showgirl on an after-theater date. But it'll be daytime in a few hours, and Broadway will wear a sleazy house dress and stand on street corners, screaming. Day or night, it wears any face you look for. It's Broadway, my beat.
Broadway's My Beat stars Larry Thor as Detective Danny Clover and is written by Morton Fine and David Friedkin. The musical score was composed by Alexander Courage and conducted by Wilbur Hatch, and the program was produced and directed by Elliott Lewis. The cast tonight included Charles Calvert, Irene Tedrow, Jerry Hausner, Howard McNear, Edgar Barrier, Herb Vigran, and Jack Crucian.
This is the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Our next radio drama is about a fabulous freelance insurance investigator with the action-packed expense account. The show aired on CBS Radio from January 14th, 1949 to September 30th, 1962. There are 811 episodes in the 12-year run, and more than 720 still exist today. Each story started with a phone call from an insurance executive, and each story ended with an itemized expense account signed, Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, right here on HOJO Radio. Next.
Wikipedia says that the island of Haiti can be called San Domingo, Santa Domingo, or Hispaniola. Well, after my visit there, I could suggest a few more things they can call it, but they probably wouldn't get past the censors. This is another in the adventures of America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator, Johnny Dollar. At insurance investigation, Johnny Dollar is only an expert.
And making out his expense account, he's an absolute genius.
Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, American Federated Life Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. Attention, Harvard Huntington, General Manager. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during my assignment in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Or, the nights may be black down there, but the magic is blacker. Expense account, item 1, $15 for a pair of tickets to see the show Detective Story at the Hudson Theater, New York, which I never got a chance to use. Film with your Hartford home promptly at curtain time.
I want to thank you for coming out here.
Well, that's all right, sir.
Sorry to break into your evening like this, but since I have, I'll get right to the point.
Fine.
Perhaps you've heard of the Gordon family here in Hartford.
Well, what I see of the society page is while I'm flipping back to the sports section. But I've noticed the name. Diamond-studded, aren't they?
Yes, immensely wealthy. Pillars of society and, surprisingly, quite a proper family. It is all but one of the sons, Ralph. A heavy drinker, complete wastrel, ne'er-do-well.
A blot on the old escutcheon, eh?
Yes. Continually getting into one scrape or another. Now he's done it again.
I take it that you're not worried about Ralph the man, but about Ralph the policyholder.
Well, to put it bluntly, yes. I don't think it's unethical for a company to protect its interests. In this case, the policy is in the amount of $150,000. Payable to his death to charity or to his wife if he's married.
Yeah, it's quite a piece of paper.
Yes, to be quite candid, I rue the day it was issued. But the point is this. Ralph Gordon, at last report, is dying aboard his yacht at Port-au-Prince, Haiti.
Oh, you don't need me, Mr. Huntington. You need the Mayo Clinic.
Dollar, I hesitate to even mention this in the presence of a sane man, but from everything we can learn, young Gordon is not dying from any known malady. He's dying as a result of a... Well, it's pure nonsense. He's supposed to be dying as a result of a voodoo curse. Now, anyone with any sense...
Now, wait a minute. Where'd you get your information?
From his older brother, Thomas. He's a doctor. He's down there in Haiti with Ralph. I want you to go down and debunk this thing, Dollar. Find out what's wrong. Why, any sane man knows there's no such voodoo. You don't believe in it, do you?
No. Not unless I see it working. Expense account, item 2. $148.70. Hartford to Port-au-Prince via airplane. Expense account item 3, $32.50. Tropical clothes. They didn't fit me, but they fit the weather. And item 4, $25. Spent while I browsed the waterfront bars in Port-au-Prince, looking for somebody who knew where the Gordon yacht was moored.
Know about this?
When I found him, he not only knew that, he knew everything.
Ask me first. My name's Cap Reagan, and I've been here since before repeal. Give up my citizenship, I did. With the help of a couple of prohibition agents.
Oh, you don't say.
Uh-huh. And I figure on sailing out in the final days right here. What do you want with the Gordon craft?
I want to see the owner, Ralph Gordon. How do I get to it?
Oh, I reckon you pay me to row you out to her. My dinghy's down at the foot of the pier, just a short hill from where we're at.
Oh, well, good. Come on, let's shove off then.
Just wait till it down my ration here. That'll put me ship shape. What'd you say you wanted with that schooner? You figuring on buying her?
Thanks for the compliment, pal. Listen, if I bought a boat today, it would have to be a surplus life raft. Now, I told you I want to talk to Gordon.
Friendly visit or other kind?
I'm beginning to see how you know so much about this island.
Well, never question, never learn. Remember that, Sonny?
Yeah.
Yeah. This way. Veer off to starboard. No, sure. Never question, never learn.
Yeah. Well, I'm an insurance investigator, and a company sent me down here to look things over, including Gordon.
Something wrong?
I don't know yet. What do you know about him?
A jug full, Sonny, a jug full. Stood into the harbor about 2 months back. No sooner dropped his hook than his crew started taking the pierhead lead. Everybody jumped but the bosun, for reasons of his own.
Why did they leave him?
'Cause he was half seas over all the time. You navigate with sextant, a compass, and parallel rulers, Sonny. Not with a double shot and a water chaser. You get the drift? They were afraid to sell them, huh? Aye. That's the line of it. And if you'd ever piled into a reef, you'd feel the same. Here we are. Oh. That's my dinghy down at the bottom of that ladder. There's Gordon's yacht out there. You see her? Oh, yeah. That tug passing the stern of her now.
Yeah, say. That's a lot of boats.
Yeah. She carries a suit of sail like a grain clipper. Wait till you see her close up. She's as dirty as a garbage cow. Give her a hail now, Sonny. They're close enough.
Hey! Anybody aboard? Hey, aboard the yacht. Anybody home?
Yes? What do you want?
If the ship was dirty, I didn't notice. It may have had good lines, too, but it couldn't have touched what stood at the rail wearing clam diggers, an off-the-shoulder T-shirt, and a Caribbean tan.
There's a rim hull for you. Yeah. That'll be his wife.
His wife? Oh.
Can I come aboard?
Who are you? What do you want?
I'm Johnny Sellers from Hartford. I want to talk to Ralph.
Oh. Why, yes, and I guess you'll have to come aboard.
Here. I'll swing the stern into the ladder.
Okay.
There you be. Oh, steady now. Steady.
Okay, Captain. You wait for me, huh?
Yeah.
Well, how are things in Ralphie's old hometown?
Cold. But not as cold as this reception.
Don't let it throw you. What is it? A friendly drop-in? Business? Or just plain snooping? It's the last I'm Edwina. The wife they haven't heard about at home.
Oh, congratulations. Now I know why you like to wear your shoulders bare. It's better to keep a chip on them.
If you're through being sharp, I'll let you hear what's left of my husband. Come on. Through here.
Okay.
Hey, Ralph. Ralph, you've got a visitor from Hartford.
Get away from this cabin, you dirty-nosed gold digger, and take your visitor with you. Wine's all gone. Why don't they send another case of wine?
There you are, John. You've got the door locked. It'll stay that way till he runs out of wine. You heard enough?
Yeah. Enough to know how you acquired your charming attitude.
Forget it. I walked into it with my eyes wide open. Let's get back out on deck. The light's better if we can only bob to each other.
Yeah, sure. Sounds like fun.
Well, do I have to help you also?
Not until you help me by answering some questions. I'm an insurance investigator, and I was sent down here by the company that holds a policy on your husband's life.
What should I do, Frank?
The story they got was that Ralph was dying from some kind of a voodoo curse. They don't believe it, and neither do I.
Why not? It might be true.
Huh?
Well, some old dame, they call her Maria Lascelles. She came out to the boat. She yelled some things at him, and when Ralphie threw a bottle at her, she swore she'd put a curse on him. How'd they hear about that back in Hartford?
Ralph's brother, Dr. Thomas Gordon, told them. You know him?
Yeah, we hate each other. I wonder why he told them.
Maybe because he thought somebody, who'd be better off with Ralph dead, was using Maria Lascelles' curse as a cover-up. How would you stand as his widow?
Get off the boat, Cal.
Never mind the act. You're his beneficiary. Or didn't you know?
I said get off.
What's the trouble, Eddie?
Oh, him. Yo, come here, will you?
All right. Who's the boarding party?
Just get him off him. I'll see you in my cabin.
Sure, honey. Anybody get you this upset, it'll be a pleasure. Well, mate, do you walk or dive?
Save your strength for the last scene, Goliath. I was just leaving. Expense account, item 5, $3. Paid to Cap Reagan as water taxi fare. Item 6, 80 cents. Land taxi fare to Hotel Francois. An up-at-the-heels hangout for not only the best in tourists, but also Brother Thomas Gordon, M.D.
Yes?
I'm Johnny Dollar, Dr. Gordon, from Hartford.
Oh, yes, Dollar. I've been expecting you. They wired me you were coming down. Come in.
Thank you.
Please make yourself comfortable. Could I offer you something?
Nothing but some brotherly advice.
Why, certainly. You know, I feel like a stupid fool for not being able to handle this thing myself. So now that you're here, you call on me for anything. Have you seen Ralph?
I tried to, but he locked himself in his cabin. Tell me, as a medical man, how do you digest this voodoo curse story?
Why, it's ridiculous. Good heavens, this is the 20th century. I do think that science doesn't know everything it would like to know about voodoo and black magic. There are stories supposedly true, but any victim would have to have a highly susceptible mind. Now, I know my brother, Mr. Dollar. His mind is susceptible only to his own whims and fancies.
Well, then what's the matter with him?
Well, that's it. I don't know. He's drawn within himself. He seems to be searching almost insanely for escape through alcohol.
Hasn't anybody thought of putting him on the wagon? It's a horrible idea, but I've heard it works.
I don't think this is the time for it. He's suffering mentally and needs release.
Well, that leaves us with only one thing to think about. No matter how thin you cut it, it's still voodoo.
I'm a man of science, Mr. Dollar. I'd make hypocrisy out of all my knowledge and training if I attacked the problem from that direction. But please, you let me know what you learned, huh?
Expense account, item 7. $4. Rental of horse and cart in which my walking tourist guide, Cap Riggin, and I jolted out of town in search of Maria LaSalle. Something made me feel like I was riding my last mile in a tumbril en route to the guillotine. The moonlight was fighting a losing battle against an army of storm clouds that were sweeping in. And then to make it worse, I heard a drum.
You there, Sonny?
Yeah. Sort of a tired Gene Cooper.
Means we're getting close to Maria's headquarters.
Is she the only one around here?
Yep. None of the good Hoogans performs in her territory. She's too mean.
Oh, great. What's the matter?
We're here. That's the path. Over there by that gnarled old tree. From here on, you plot your own course. This is close enough for me.
Oh, me too. Well, how do I know I can't put a curse on her? I've never tried.
Smooth sailing, Sonny.
The path ran along the edge of a field of sugarcane. On the other side was a solid wall of jungle. First, I smelled some feathers burning. Then I heard the chant. There was an opening in the wall of jungle that led to a small clearing, and just before the moon was smothered by another cloud, I saw a shack. Little clouds of smoke curled out through an open door, and I could see the glow of a fire on the floor inside. Maria, I want to talk to you.
Who is it? Comes to the house of Maria.
My name wouldn't mean a thing to you, but what I have to say will. Can I come in?
Alfred, what is this word of so great importance to stop Maria?
All I know about voodoo is I don't believe it. I've come to you because I haven't got any answers from anybody else. I want to know what's behind this so-called curse you put on Ralph Gordon.
You don't believe? You like me make you believe, eh? Ralph Gordon, he died tonight in the wind and rain. And for you, I have magic now. Look, regard my fire. You will see, you will believe this book. Voila!
I couldn't see what she'd thrown to the fire. She'd reached behind her for it. But when the smoke from it whirled around me, it seemed to grab my throat and squeeze. I stumbled back to the door. I hadn't believed in voodoo when I'd come in, but going out, I wasn't so sure.
In just a moment, we'll return to the second act of Johnny Dollar. But first, the two Orange Bowl teams, Santa Clara and Kentucky, will be honored by Vaughn Monroe and his CBS Caravan tonight. Vaughn and his great band will play favorite songs of the two Orange Bowl teams. Be sure to hear Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, followed by the Gene Autry Show on most of the same CBS stations tonight and every Saturday night. Now, with our star, Charles Russell, we return to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
My throat burned. My eyes were looking at each other. My lungs felt like a pair of deflated footballs. And the blood in my head was pounding a better and louder rhythm than that drum. I staggered around the heavy jungle air, and when I could breathe again, I gulped in enough to lift the Graf Zeppelin. By that time, I was cool enough to get hot in anger. When I got back to the shack, Maria had either disappeared into space or flown the coop. The atmosphere was not quite deadly. I crossed over to where she had been squatting. She hadn't left much of what she'd smoked me out with, but she'd left enough to swing things back from the world of black magic into the world of logic. A few shreds of photographic film on the dirt floor. And film, made of cellulose and nitrates, not only takes pictures, it puts out nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide when it's burned. A combination that would live up to the demands of any gas chamber. The captain rowed me out to the Gordon yacht. This time I boarded without a hail. Ralph was still in a bad mood as I started to pass the cabin.
Why don't they send the wine? Empty! Empty!
His antics inside the cabin sounded interesting, but not half as interesting as the conversation coming from Edwina's cabin. Dear Edwina, the little wife they didn't know about at home.
I'm telling you, it was not go on with it.
Well, it's tough. You having a change of heart.
Well, that's what happened.
Not for sure that makes any difference. Maybe you're in too deep to back out. How would you like it if I spilled the whole thing?
Well, what difference does it make? You're better than landing in a Haitian prison with your motives showing.
Think it over, Angel. I'll be in my sack when you make up your mind.
How wrong can you be?
See you later, hon.
Since I've been on the receiving end of so many surprise sluggings, this was almost a pleasure.
What are you doing on this ship? Get off.
Oh, no. Not of that intriguing conversation I just heard.
How much did you hear?
If I added it to that gas assault Maria LaSalle threw at me, there'd be enough to nail you and Loverboy here for conspiracy to commit murder.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the point is, I know what you two were talking about.
Oh, listen to me. You've got to believe me.
I don't have to. Well, try me anyway.
Well, I admit to him, and well, it was because Ralph turned into a wino after we were married.
Oh, this probably marks the first time in history that an icicle melted in Port-au-Prince.
Please let me finish. When my marriage went to pieces, I had to do something or go crazy. You see, Ralph drinking up all the champagne on the island was just more than I could take. I was going to divorce him and leave with him, but we weren't going to murder him.
Chapter 1 had so many holes in it would have been printed by a punch press. You don't worry about landing in prison with your motive showing when all you're planning is divorce.
Oh, yes, you do when people are waiting for your husband to die under mysterious circumstances. That's why I was trying to make them go away. If Ralph died, who'd look in his father's mirroring wife?
Can you lock this cabin from the outside?
No. What are you going to do? You're not going to lock me in?
No, just your playmates. You're coming with me.
Where?
To Maria LaSalle. I want to catch your reaction when she sees you.
You don't believe me?
No. With $150,000 at stake, I don't even believe myself. There's her shack. Go ahead. Go on in.
Come to the door of Maria. HOJO, woman.
Well, Mr. Dollar, are you satisfied?
Not quite.
And you who don't believe, why are you here? You wish again to see the power of my smoke?
Let's drop the act, Maria. I know what you threw into the fire.
It was my bucket of smoke.
Yeah, well, a good man from the police laboratory can sift enough out of those ashes to know it was film.
What is this you say?
I say that I've got enough on you, you old fake, to put you in the local pokey.
Who dares to speak this to Maria?
And that's where you're going to go if you don't cooperate. That's the promise.
What is it you want?
Did somebody put you up to this cursed business that Ralph Gordon is supposed to be under?
Well, a man of your age.
Who was it?
I do not know. Now go. That is all.
It's not enough. What was his name?
I don't know the name.
What did he look like then?
My eyes are closed.
Nuts. Come on.
No.
Taking you into town, I'm about to drag you by the hair.
No, don't touch me. I will tell you how it is. It is true. I do not know the name or the face. He comes to me. He asks me when comes the next rain and wind. I tell him last night. But if it's tonight, the storm comes with the sea. He tell me he needs storm to close portholes in the ship.
Huh?
He say, if I bring this surf, I will be the best Hugon on Haiti because it kill white man. That is difficult. That is all. Now you go.
How about the film for the fire? Did he give it to you?
This is true. Not long before you come.
Well, get rid of it, Granny, before you lose your license to operate.
Now, you go. Maria will be alone. Papa,
Okay, Mrs. Jordan. Let's not stay for the music.
Did you make head or tail out of what she said?
Hey, look. What goes into your husband's cabin?
Nothing but food and wine. Mostly wine.
Well, who fixes his meals?
I do. Our cook left us.
Well, what about the wine?
Huh?
Where does it come from? You said it was champagne, didn't you?
Yeah. So it comes from the same place. Liquor shop in town. A case at a time. Oh, nothing makes any sense. What are you going to do?
All I can do. Try every angle. But that's not all I'm going to try in that liquor shop. Expense account, item 8, $4.50. 2 quarts of rum. The purchase of which helped loosen the tongue of the proprietor who had been supplying Ralph Gordon's champagne.
Which wine? A case at a time, packed in dry ice.
And the words that poured out weren't exactly intoxicating, but they sent me staggering to the nearest phone.
Yes? Hello?
Hello, Dr. Gordon. This is Dollar.
Good heavens, Dollar, I've been wondering about you. What have you learned?
First, tell me this. What would happen to a man if he was in a ship's cabin on a stormy night with all the portholes closed and there was a lot of dry ice in there with him?
What was that?
A small room, no ventilation, a lot of dry ice. A lush, maybe passed out. What would happen?
Oh, good Lord. Dry ice is solidified carbon dioxide. If enough of it evaporated into the room...
The lush would not be bothered by a hangover the next morning because he wouldn't wake up, right?
Exactly. The gas, although not toxic, would force the oxygen from the atmosphere, and the result would be asphyxia. What are you getting at, Dollar?
That curse your brother is suffering from is very scientific. The champagne he's been getting has been chilled by dry ice, about 5 pounds per case. And 1 case went out to the yacht just before the storm broke.
Good Lord. Well, it may be just coincidence, but Ralph's wife and that bosun.
Yeah, I know. For a bosun, he'd make a very good chemist. Well, send for a pull motor, will you? If it's too late for your brother, maybe I can use it.
I'm a flying fish sailor. I hail from Hong Kong.
Hey, Cap.
Blow, blow.
Come on, Cap.
Oh, where's Sonny? Cut him around, George, from a shipmate and me. This is rum
Never mind
weather,
around,
Sonny.
Cap. You got to row me out to that yacht again.
Huh? What do you take me for, a blasted galley sleeve?
Come on,
My back
Cap.
is about
I'm in a
broke
hurry.
now from all the roaring in this...
$20.
In this... What'd you say?
I didn't think it could rain any harder than it had, but it did. We would have been drier swimming. And the visibility was so bad, I would have had to have a seeing eye seal to find the ship. But about 20 minutes out, Cap spotted a riding light.
Here's your letter, Sonny.
We were on target. But so was somebody else. The searchlight stabbed out at us.
Hey. This sounds like Prohibition days. Who's giving us a broadside?
Can't tell you.
I'll lay a pelican hood over his head if I get my hands on him.
Hey, Cap, what's the matter?
Got my left leg.
Right. Cap, get down to the bottom.
Yes.
I'm going over the side. To me, swimming is a pastime to be practiced only under ideal circumstances, in a pool, and preferably in the company of a well-filled bikini suit. But there was nothing to do but swim, so I swam. I tried to remember how many shots had been fired, and that's where I made my mistake. There was a lull in the shooting, which I took to mean the gun was empty. I put my head down in the best Weissmuller style and thrashed my way to the ladder. But when I got there, the first thing I saw after I'd shaken the water out of my eyes was the muzzle of a rifle. The face looking down the barrel at me belonged to Brother Thomas Gordon, M.D.
Sorry, Dollar. Killing you wasn't in my plan. But now it'll have to be done.
I wasn't surprised at that, but I was surprised at what happened. I was waiting for a bullet to come my way, but instead the doctor did.
Are you all right, Dollar?
Yeah, here I am. Something wrong with a Turkish towel won't cure. I'll thank you later for spoiling his game. Get a hook on the doctor. He's our prize fish. Don't let him get away. I grabbed a fire axe out of its case on my way to Ralph Gordon's cabin. If it needed ventilating, I knew one quick way to do it. I didn't check for oxygen. I took a deep breath, held it, and went in. The cabin was littered with wine bottles, and in one corner, in an open case, was the dry ice that was in the process of cooling Gordon off for good. He was stretched out in his bunk. I hefted him to my shoulder and used the last of my breath getting him out of there. Expense account, item 9, $30. Cover charge at a hospital where I put the revived Gordon under the care of a doctor, not his brother, who happened to be resting in a jail cell at the time. His motive hadn't been the insurance money. He figured to gain quite a chunk as the only heir to the Gordon fortune, if he could have taken care of Brother Ralph. Item 10, same as item 9. Same hospital where they tacked up Cap Riggin. Item 11, $148.70. Return trip to Hartford. And expense account item 12, $40. An ounce of voodoo perfume for the lovely but sometimes chilly Edwina. Maybe if she tries that kind of magic on her husband, he'll spend less time with a bottle joy and more with her kind. Expense account total, $424.70. Signed, yours, truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Charles Russell. Tonight's script by Paul Dudley and Gil Dowd was produced and directed by Ralph Rose. Featured in the cast were Betty Lou Gerson, Sylvia Sims, Ben Wright, Ken Christie, Howard Culver, Dawes Butler, and Tim Graham. The special music is written and conducted by Leif Stevens. Be sure to be with us at the same time next week when another unusual expense account is handed in by
Johnny Dollar.
Were you right? Were you wrong? Did you know it was Buster Keaton playing Sing It Again's Phantom voice these last few weeks? Well, now there's a new Phantom riding the airways on Sing It Again. And for identifying him tonight, some CBS listener can win $50,000 in cash and prizes, radio's largest jackpot. Phone calls go out from coast to coast, so be ready for the new Phantom when Sing It Again comes your way over most of these same CBS stations later tonight. Now stay tuned for Vaughn Monroe's Caravan, which follows over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, where yours truly, Johnny Dollar, meets adventure every Saturday night, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Stay tuned to HOJO Radio.
Submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Great Columbian Life Insurance Company. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during the investigation of the circumstances surrounding the murder of your policyholder, Loyal B. Martin, or how to take a vacation in Fairfield County. Expense account item 1. $3.20 mileage from Hartford, Connecticut to the country estate of the deceased. I drove up a long cement driveway towards a mausoleum-type manor house. There were rolling green lawns liberally sprinkled with statuary, and the thought occurred to me that if he had spent much of his life here, the late Mr. Martin was most fortunate. He'd feel right at home in a cemetery.
Yes?
My name is Dollar. I'm here to see Mrs. Martin.
Oh, yes. Mrs. Martin.
Uh-huh.
I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. The widow has gone shopping the day after the death of her husband. Something attractive in mourning clothes, I'm sure.
Well, what time is she expected back?
I have no idea. But it shouldn't be long.
Do you mind if I come in and wait?
You'll forgive my asking, young man, but just what is your business here at Loyal Haven?
I was sent here by the insurance company.
Oh, why, yes. So then do come in. Here, right in here. I'm Mrs. Tompkins, the housekeeper, Mr. Dollar. I was with Mr. Martin for over 30 years. He was a wonderful man.
This furniture also looks like it might have been with Mr. Martin for over 30 years. Victorian, isn't it?
Yes. Pure. Loyal... Mr. Martin, that is, was an expert on the Victorian period. Please sit down.
Thank you.
Mr. Dollar, I suppose you'll think it's indelicate of me at this time, but about Loyal's insurance, his policies, did they...
Yes, Mrs. Tompkins, they did. One of his policies leaves you a nice, sizable amount. But before you start counting it, maybe you and I had better have a little understanding.
Yes?
Well, I'm not here to represent the payoff department. I'm here to investigate the murder.
Oh, I see.
Yes, before the company pays off, they want to make sure that among the beneficiaries, they don't pay off the murderer, because they really don't have to do that.
Oh, I didn't realize...
No, neither do a lot of people. You know, that's the way quite a few good murders are wasted.
Yes, I suppose you're right. Well, if that's what you're here for, I suppose you'll want to talk to the police. Lieutenant Markwood is in the library. That's where it happened.
Oh, library, huh? Well, that might help. If I can't find any other answers, I can always try looking some up in a book. Which way do I go?
The door, just across the hall.
Thank you. And what a hall. The only thing missing was old Queen Victoria herself. Even the musty odor clinging to the green velvet seemed to have been passed down through the centuries. There was a brace of moth-eaten pheasants on the wall and a bouquet of moth-eaten flowers under glass on a marble-top side table. The library was the same, but there were three things that looked out of place. A, an old suit of armor. B, a glass case filled with new, well-polished sporting rifles and shotguns. And C, a very gruff-looking lieutenant of the police who eyed me as I came in.
And who are you?
Oh, here's my little breath saver.
Oh, yeah, Johnny Dollar. They told me you'd be here. Well, I've told everybody else I better tell you, don't touch anything. They want to re-fingerprint the whole room.
Okay. What'd you find, Lieutenant?
Nothing but the cadaver with 2 bullet holes in his back. Haven't got a caliber report from ballistics yet.
Have you an estimated time of departure?
Yeah, the coroner says Martin died after dinner last night.
Uh-huh. Anything to go on?
Just the usual. Faith, hope, and suspicion. His wife, too young and too pretty for an ugly old buck like Martin, must have married him for his money. Then there's that housekeeper, Sarah Tompkins.
Yeah, I met her on the way in.
Well, she used to be the old man's intended from what I can find out. Probably jealous of the young wife. Then there's the brother, Marty. He showed up a few weeks ago, broke and brooding. Probably in love with the young wife. And then there's Nick Bellotti, a private detective who hired himself out as Martin's bodyguard.
Bodyguard, huh? No doubt also in love with the young wife.
Could be.
Well, who's your choice?
Except for the fact that there are only 2 bullets, I think they all did it.
The nose through which Lieutenant Mark would talk was a long one, and in more ways than one, a horn of plenty, for out of it had poured enough motives and suspects to furnish a dozen murders. I started through this cast of characters and found that all of them had very little to say and didn't want to say it. The first I dug up was the bodyguard, my brother investigator, Nick Bellotti, as he returned from a horseback ride. Glad to have you on the case, Dollar. The police have tied my hands. They told me to stay out of it, but to stick around. Have you got any ideas? Everybody seems to think it was an inside job, that somebody in the household did it. I'm not so sure. And the reason I was around was because old man Martin made too many dollars and too many enemies doing it. But that's only my opinion. Why don't you talk to the old boy's younger brother, Marty? I found Marty living the life of Riley. He was upstairs in his room, cuddled up to a 20-year-old bottle of brandy, which was still underage to be around the kind of book he was reading.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, Dollar. My brother and I never did get along. Yeah, you'd find that out anyway.
Why'd you come back here, Marty?
Because Laura's little bride, Joanne, sent for me. She was afraid of him, and she didn't know if he was on to her.
Was he?
About that, you'll have to talk to Joanne.
Joanne didn't get home until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I caught up with her 20 minutes later as she came dripping out of the swimming pool. The suit she was wearing would have gotten her pinched on the Riviera.
Oh, that was refreshing.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Toss me that towel, will you?
Yeah, surely. Here, Mrs. Martin.
Joanne, I hate formality. Who are you?
Well, I'm from the insurance company, here to find out whether you killed your husband or not.
Good for you, Mr. Dollar. That's what I like. Men who get right down to the point. I was told you were here.
Oh? Nobody told me about you.
Oh, come on over and learn. I want to stretch out here in the sun. Here, you man the fly swatter.
Okay.
Come on, sit down. Here beside me. If it gets too warm, slip off your shirt.
Oh, thank you. Well, suppose we start talking business. Marty tells me you sent for him to come here because you were afraid of your husband. How come?
Well, I knew Marty before I knew Loyal. As a matter of fact, he's the one who introduced me to... What do you call a dead husband?
You call him unlucky, I guess. Anyway, for the purposes of this conversation, I'll know who you mean if you just say husband. But you didn't answer my question. I meant, were you afraid of your spouse? And if so, why?
Yes, I was afraid of him. Oh, I might as well tell you, Mr. Dollar. I want to be frank with you. The only thing Loyal didn't have to offer me was love. I seem to be a girl who needs just that. Frankly, I tried to make up the deficit. Mrs. Tompkins, the housekeeper, saw to it that my husband found out about it. From then on, it was like living with a madman. So endeth my confession.
So beginneth my suspicions. What about this housekeeper?
Well, until I came along, she always thought that Loyal would wind up marrying her. Oh, don't get me wrong. I realize that I'm still the best jury bait around.
If you killed him, you might make some headway with a self-defense plea.
Thanks. I remember that. In the meantime, just in case this thing gets messy for me, and it shows signs, I'm going to spend what's left of my free time enjoying myself.
Well, that won't sound good to a jury, but it sounds good to me. If I spend too much time around here, I might wind up having to plead self-defense myself.
Oh? From me?
No. From that bathing suit. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to keep 2 eyes on 4 people, reading from left to right. Brother Marty stayed in his room, finishing his book and his brandy. Nick Bellotti, the bodyguard with no body to guard, got back on his horse and cantered off into the sunset. The joyous widow, Joanne, locked herself in her room, and all I could get through the keyhole was the sound of a light and lovely snore.
I couldn't tell whether it was the genuine article or not. Having no way of checking, I picked up the trail of Sarah Tompkins, the housekeeper. She, at least, was apparently up to no good. I found her in the library doing just what Lieutenant Markwood had told her not to do, smearing the surfaces of Mr. Martin's desk with a dust rag. And as anybody knows, you can't fingerprint a dust rag. Hey, cut it out!
How dare you? Mr. Martin's private study.
Those are the police private fingerprints you're messing up.
I was doing nothing of the sort. I was dusting his desk. I always do it at this time of day. Get out of here. You don't belong in here.
Keep your wig on, Mrs. Tompkins.
I'll not be told what to do by outsiders. Everything was all right until outsiders started coming in. If it wasn't for outsiders, Loyal would still be alive. First that girl, then his brother and that detective. Now it's the police and you. Why did any of you have to come here? Why couldn't you leave us alone?
Now, calm down, Mrs. Tompkins. Try to calm down.
Yeah, now, what's going on in here? What? Oh, and what are you two lovebirds up to?
It's all right, Lieutenant. I'll tell you about it later.
All right, but get her out of here. I've got some looking to do privately. Take her down to her room and then come back.
You mean you got something hot?
It ain't cold.
Okay, Mrs. Tompkins, come on.
But I haven't finished in there.
Come on, you can get it later. There's just time for you to take a little rest before dinner.
But I never rest this time of day. He didn't like me to.
Mrs. Tompkins, come on, tell me. Really, why were you wiping off that desk?
Those police this morning scattered white powder all over his desk. He would have been furious with me. He hated any kind of...
The shots had come from the library, and that's where I went, but not fast enough. By the time I got there, Lieutenant Markwood was dead, and whoever had done the shooting was gone, apparently through an open window. Markwood still clutched the shotgun he'd grabbed out of the gun case, but hadn't had a chance to use. Two things had just died in that room: the lieutenant and the hot piece of evidence he'd never had the chance to pass on to me. Yeah, he's dead.
Oh, what are you doing, fella?
I'm looking for what there seems to be a shortage of around here, Bellotti. Clues.
You don't mind where you look, do you? Rule number 1, don't get caught frisking dead cops.
Forget about it, Bellotti, will you? Maybe I can suffer from lapse of memory for you sometime.
That's a deal. Got any idea what you're looking for?
No, but whatever it was important enough to get him killed. I'd hope maybe there'd be something in his notebook, for instance.
Any luck?
Well, very little. It's a brand new book, only one notation in it. Here it is. Check tattooing diameter. Recheck penetration. What do you make of that?
It's too scientific for me. I'm a skip case and divorce type detective myself. All I know is you'd better put that book back in his pocket and leave it there.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Nice timing, Bellotti, and remember, thanks for the loss of memory.
Forget it.
Hey, what happened? What's going on
Good
here?
Lord, Lieutenant Markwood. Who did it?
Dealer's choice. So far, the dealer's the only one who knows.
First my brother, now Lieutenant Markwood. There'll be real trouble about this.
Johnny, shall I call the police?
Drop the innocent accessor-in-law. I'll call them.
No, maybe I better do it, Marty.
If everybody will stop pleading not guilty by wanting to call the police, I'd like to get a word in. The police have already been called. Now, if you'll get out of here, I'd like to try earning my salary. If I had had longer ears and more soulful eyes, I would have been all bloodhound, because I could sniff out the first of the trail. The smell of cordite told me that Lieutenant Markwood's killer had either been inside the room when he fired, or just outside with the weapon pointed through the still open window. Outside, the grass formed a deep, wet rug right up to the house and smothered any immediate hopes I'd had of finding footsteps. But 10 feet away, I had better luck. A ray of light from inside spotlighted something that looked like it might be a star witness. It was a .32 caliber revolver. I scooped it up with my handkerchief and went back through the open window to look it over. Under the light, I checked 6 empty chambers and a crimson smear on the walnut grip. If somebody was feeding me a herring, it sure was red. But it wasn't blood. It was lipstick. introduce myself, Dollar. I'm Sergeant Norm McDougal. How are you, Sergeant? Poor Markwood. Thank the Lord he didn't have any wife and kids. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Cops usually do. There's one good thing about it. When a police officer goes, there's plenty of them that lives on to fight back. All the police in the world. You can throw in the private ones, too, Sergeant. Thanks, Dollar. And now maybe I'd better take your statement. Well, it won't take long. I heard the shots from the hallway, and I came back. He was killed either from inside the room or just outside the window. I didn't get a look at the killer, but I found what might be the murder gun. Here it is. Watch that handkerchief. 32 caliber. Yeah, how does that match up with the gun that killed old man Martin, do you know? Same caliber. I wonder what he was doing with this shotgun. It ain't loaded, and Markwood knew better than to wave an unloaded gun in the face of a full one. Did you get anything else out of ballistics, Sergeant? Headache. Dollar, what we got from ballistics don't add up with what we got from autopsy. Well, how's that? Those 2 slugs entered Martin's body an inch and a half apart. But, according to the shallow penetration, they were fired from a distance of 300 yards. Now, do you know anybody who could do that kind of shooting with a 32? That's pretty fancy shooting. Could it have been done with a stationary mount? No, not a chance. The body would have started falling after the first shot, and you can't re-aim a stationary mount that fast. Yeah, you're right. You know, I didn't have a chance to spend much time with Markwood before he got it, so I don't have much to work on. You got anything to spare? Just a lot of routine confusion so far. You know yourself, Dollar. You take 4 witnesses, you're bound to get at least 2 different stories. 2 of the people that heard the shooting when Martin got killed last night said they heard 2 shots. The other 2 eyewitnesses said they heard 1. The only thing the whole 4 agree on is that they didn't see anything. Well, that sounds familiar. Thanks anyway, Sergeant. Sure, anytime. Hey, Sam. Yeah? Take this gun into town. Tell ballistics to run it through for fingerprints and check it against those slugs in the Martin case. I want to report right away. I hitched the ride with that gun into the ballistics department. While waiting for the test to be made, I asked some questions, and I came up with a real brain buster. Despite the fact that the penetration report said that Martin had been shot from a distance of 300 yards, his skin and clothing had been tattooed with powder, indicating the shots had been fired at close range. The tree that little puzzler put me up would have made the giant redwood forest look like a hedge. Then they gave me the ballistic report. The lands and ghouls scored into the slugs by the revolver barrel proved that both Loyal Martin and Lieutenant Markwood had been killed by the 32 caliber gun I'd picked up in the yard. No prints on it. Registered owner, the young lady who looked much better in a bathing suit than she'd ever look in the electric chair. The widow, Joyanne Martin.
Who is it?
The Hartford Horse Show. Dollar, I want to talk to you.
Oh, I'll be with you in a second. I'm just out of the shower.
Okay. First she was in the pool, now it's the shower. She's also in plenty of hot water.
Hi. Don't pay any attention to my hair.
Don't worry, I won't.
I suppose you think it's a silly time of night for me to be taking a shower, but I thought it might help me to get to sleep.
Well, I'm afraid I won't.
Hi, Johnny.
You were pretty careless with that gun, weren't you?
What gun?
Oh, that handy little 32 caliber gun with a handy little registration number engraved on it that told the nasty old police that you bought it 6 weeks ago.
Well, my gun's right here in the drawer. I bought it to protect myself from my husband. Johnny, it's gone.
It's real gone. It's done gone and killed 2 men so far. And if you can't do some fast talking and some fast proving, it stands a good chance of shortening your pretty little life expectancy.
Somebody must have stolen it.
Oh, no. That's not even a down payment on a story.
Oh, but Johnny, there's a whole house full of people who could have done it. Not only that, they'd be glad to get me out of the way if they could.
Why?
Well, Mrs. Thompson, because she hates me. Loyal's brother Marty, because I stand to inherit everything.
What about Nick Bellotti? Doesn't he have an axe to grind?
I don't know what it could be.
Okay, skip it. Tell me, Do you remember hearing 2 shots being fired around here any time before your husband was killed? Probably away from the house?
Why do you ask that?
Because I want to know, did you?
You amaze me. Yes, I did hear 2 shots. The day before Laura was killed. I was horseback riding down by the walnut grove. I remember because my horse shied.
Well, this is coming a bit too readily to be readily believed. But how big is that walnut grove?
Not very big.
Yeah? Can you spot those shots a little closer?
They sounded as if they came from about the middle. I didn't stay to find out. I guess I frightened easily.
Yeah. Yeah, you frighten me easily.
Why, Johnny?
Why? I'll tell you why. Because whether you shot anybody or not, you'll murder, baby.
Oh, Johnny. I didn't kill them. Got to believe me, Johnny.
I don't have to. But just for a minute, I will. What is there about police drivers? Even out in the country, they got to lay on those sirens.
Johnny, please.
Come on, you better get dressed, sweetheart. I told them I'd keep you occupied till they got here. The police took Joyanne and her hurt feelings off to the pokey. I took myself and my hurt cheek off to bed. The next thing I had to do had to be done by daylight. So I took over Joyanne's painfully empty and prettily perfumed sack, set the alarm for dawn, and snort up a storm. I never knew before how much went on in the country so early in the morning. On the way to the walnut grove, the damp air washed the cobwebs out of my head, and I started thinking. Now, first, Royal Martin had been found dead with 2 bullet holes in him. Yet 2 of the witnesses, Joyanne and the housekeeper, Mrs. Tompkins, had heard only 1 shot. Second, that powder burn tattooing on the body, denoting a close-range killing, was in violent argument with a bullet penetration report which screamed long-range killing. Those facts, added to what was in Lieutenant Markwood's notebook, plus that shotgun clutched in his dead hand, came close to tallying up the total that had cost him his life. Inside the grove, I found 4 walnut trees with hollows in their trunks. The first one gave me a handful of nuts and a fancy sassing by an irate squirrel. The second one came up with a handful of spunk water on a wet cuff. And the third, I found what I was looking for. I found about 2 pecks of clean cotton waste. That is, clean, except for some powder burns. Everything was falling into place, including a blunt instrument which hit me on the head from behind. But before I hit the ground, I saw Brother Marty Martin legging it back towards the house. I made it up the house and then up the hill and onto the trail, and was just starting up the stairs when I heard another out-of-season 4th of July.
It's okay, Dollar. I got him.
Yeah. So I see. It was self-defense. I had to do it. I hated to butt in on your case, but all of a sudden everything stacked up, and I knew he was your man. When I threw it in his teeth, he made a try for his gun, so I dropped him. You sure did, Bellotti. Well, I owe you a lot of thanks. But if you don't mind, I'll take over from here. Sure, help yourself. Good. And, I think the first thing you'd better do is hightail it into town and get your story filed with the police. Yeah, I guess you're right. You're all straight now, so you can back me up. 100%, Nick, all the way. I'll get going. Come on. Okay, Dollar. See you later. Sergeant Norman McDougal.
Yes, sir. Sergeant McDougal.
Johnny Dollar, Sergeant.
Oh, yeah, Dollar. What's new?
Well, just another corpse. And in just about 15 minutes, the guy who made it one and conspired on the other 2 killings is going to walk right into your arms through the station house door.
What? Who is it?
Nick Bellotti, New York private license. He just shot his partner in this thing, Marty Martin.
You're crazy. What about this girl? It was her gun.
That was their fondest hope, Sergeant, to pin it on her. They borrowed her gun, fired 2 slugs from it into some cotton waste, then took the slugs and stuck them in a shotgun shell. 1 shot, just like both ladies said they heard. The shotgun Lieutenant Markwood was looking at when he died was really the Martin murder weapon.
Oh, that takes care of the powder burns and the shallow penetration, yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Dollar. I'll be waiting for him. Hey, wait a minute. What's he walking in here for under his own power?
To tell you an early morning bedtime story, just before you go off duty. He'll give you a pitch about a self-defense killing. It's a lie. The victim wasn't carrying a gun. If he had been, he would have used it on me. But he didn't. He used the sap. The sap. Expense account, items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. $624 entertainment. Appeasing a rich widow with rich taste. Expense account, items 1 through 13 inclusive, $160 entertainment of poor insurance investigator with extravagant taste. Expense account, item 14, $7.80 mileage New York to Hartford. You may disagree with that item, claiming that I finished the case in Fairfield County, but I didn't finish the case until I left her. And New York City is where I left her. Expense account total, $823. Signed, yours, truly, Johnny Dollar.
Get this and get it straight. Crime doesn't pay, which was the motto of our next broadcast from the pen of Raymond Chandler. The first show aired on NBC in June 1947. And then in 1948, the series moved to CBS, where it was renamed. For 114 episodes, the CBS version ran and ended in September 1950. It was a more hard-boiled program than many of the other private detective shows at the time, containing few quips or quaint characters. We're proud to present to you The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, right here on HOJO Radio.
It was a grim joke that started when 6 heirs came to an ugly house on a rain-swept island to hear a madman's will. But the joke soon turned to murder, and in the end it was hard to tell who had the last laugh.
From the pen of Raymond Chandler, outstanding author of crime fiction, comes his most famous character in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. Now, with Gerald Moore, starred as Philip Marlowe, we bring you tonight's exciting story, The Last Laugh.
I'd spent a week wading through moldy beer joints and cheap hotels after a dancer on the downgrade. And when I found her, she was 2 days dead in a coal cellar, all of which left me with a rancid taste in my mouth. But when I woke up after a night's sleep to the tune of a robin on my windowsill, I realized it was spring and time for Marlowe to take a long, easy weekend someplace. Someplace where the surf meets sand like it does at, say, Ensenada. Without so much as a second thought, I threw some clothes in a bag, phoned the Riviera Pacifico for reservations, and charged out the door, where I ran head-on into a funny man with a studious face charging in.
I'm awfully sorry. Why, you're Philip Marlowe.
Yeah, I know.
My name is Darwin. I represent the law firm that handles the interests of Julius Spangler. Therefore,
Did you say Julius Spangler? Goodbye, Mr. Darwin.
Now, wait, Mr. Marlowe.
Now, listen, I had a run-in with that screwball Spangler less than a month ago. A man was knocked down a flight of stairs, I got shot at, an apartment house was set on fire, and Julius called it a practical joke and laughed himself silly. Best I could do for him was 3 days in jail. It should have been 3 years. Goodbye, Mr. Darwin.
But that sort of thing is all over now, Mr. Marlowe. Mr. Spangler is dead.
Spangler's dead.
Yes, he died last week in Brazil, the result of a hunting accident. And he has named you in his will.
He's named me. You mean I...
Precisely. You're one of Mr. Spangler's heirs.
Oh.
I shall read the will tonight at 8 o'clock in his home on Catalina Island. I trust you'll be present.
Not on your life. It's me for Ensenada, and nothing's going to stop me. Goodbye, Mr. Doll.
There are only 5 other heirs.
Huh?
And the estate runs well over $500,000.
Oh?
Almost any way you split that much up, Mr. Marlowe, it comes out something more substantial than a weekend at Ensenada. Goodbye, Mr. Marlowe.
It was fantastic. But then so was Julius Spangler. Who knows? Maybe he actually admired me for throwing him in jail. And after all, what's old Mexico got that Catalina doesn't have in better? What could I lose? It was only a matter of minutes before I was in Wilmington and climbing the gangplank of the last boat for Catalina Island. She nosed past the breakwater and headed for the open sea, and the green water glistened with gold from the sun, slanting into a bank of clouds on the horizon. Ah, this was the life. I sat back and relaxed for all of 10 seconds before the name Spangler came up again. This time being volleyed between a matron meticulously tailored by I.J. Fox, who clung to a pipe-smoking gentleman at the rail, and a cute blonde ball of fire facing them.
Some of my friends are aboard, and I don't want to be seen with you.
Look, you may be Your Highness Millicent Burke Ashby to those snoots, but you're still just Millie Spangler to me, you overstuffed social climber.
Why, you insufferable little upstart.
You're nothing. I'll give him a good show, like this.
Oh, Spangler, take me away from here. I think I'm going to faint.
I'm nuts. Well, what are you staring at, Buster? Haven't you ever seen a red jersey sweater before?
How do you do? Yeah, that sweater plus that right hook of yours adds up to quite an exhibition. You must belong to Julius.
He was my uncle, but... Now, wait. Don't tell me you're in his will, too. Then you're Philip Marlowe.
Yeah, I got him 3 days in the cooler, so now I'm an heir. Who are your two friends?
Millicent Burke Ashby, my half-sister, a professional snob I'm going to get mad enough at to kill one of these days. The jerk with her is Bennett Haynes, a cousin not enough times removed. They're also heirs.
Which still leaves two more.
Yeah, an old geezer who collects butterflies and that blockhead Roderick who passed for secretary and companion to Uncle Julius.
Yeah, I know Roderick. And what do you pass for, Nicky? As if I couldn't tell.
You can't. Ever been in Nick's Bar and Grill on La Brea, Marlowe? Well, I'm Nick.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm. And if this inheritance hadn't come along, I'd have lost my shirt. Boy, I'm really in a money jam, and Uncle Julius is saving the day for me.
Yeah, but he had to die to do it.
Well, sure, that's the only way he ever would. I wrote and asked him for a $10,000 loan once. Got a check back in the return mail, but it was signed by Alexander Hamilton. So I came out here to Catalina to see him, but he'd already left for Iceland. I spent a week by myself painting his launch for amusement. Then I went home again without a cent.
Yeah, he was a charmingly whimsical old man. By the way, where's his house?
Over on the deserted side of the island, naturally.
Naturally.
The only way to get to it is by launch. Roderick's going to meet us when we dock at Avalon.
Oh, fine. You mean we'll be stuck at Spangler's old house all night?
Is that bad, Phil? It's quite lovely. In a lot of ways.
2 hours later, we docked at Avalon. The clouds that had been on the horizon were now overhead and looking very soggy. Roderick, the late Mr. Spangler's secretary, in a striped silk shirt, gold hickok cufflinks, polka dot bow tie, and derby, was waiting for us with a launch. And after we had all shivered through another spray-splashed, wave-bucking hour and a half, we finally pulled into a small cove. A house squatted alone on a point of rocks 100 practically vertical feet above the water. And as we laboriously made our way up to it, the rains came. Julius Spangler would have loved it. When the door closed behind us, everyone dashed for the nearest fireplace, except me. I was cornered by a septuagenarian with a shock of white hair, a scraggly yellow mustache, and spectacles so thick they looked like shot glasses with horn rims. He rolled up in a wheelchair, which he handled like it was a hot rod, skidded to a stop, and shoved a fistful of brandy out at me.
Howdy, young fella.
This, I figured, was the butterfly-collecting cousin,
Yeah.
Matthew Spangler.
Better have a slug of this before pneumonia sets in. Well, sir, I suppose you're here for the reading of Cousin Julius's will?
Yeah,
so
that's right.
So am I. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Oh.
He's leaving me his collection of nymphidia. Butterflies, you know. I don't like money, just bugs.
Figures.
Yes, sir. Been an entomologist for 50 years, lepidopterist for 40. I've got specimens of 12,000 species. Only a few thousand left to go.
Practically nothing.
You've a keen mind.
Mhm.
Here, have a cigar.
Thank you. No,
Go on. It's the best. Save it for later when you got something to celebrate. Oh, there's Roderick. He'll show you around. I want to go meet these young ladies. So long, son. I'll see you. Out of the way, Roderick.
Hey, watch it. Crazy wheelchair jockey almost ran me down. Well, Mr. Marlowe, it's nice to have you with us.
Yeah, I'll bet. Look, Roderick, why did Julius stick me in his will along with all his relatives?
I don't know. Maybe he was nuts.
You can say that again. Keeping all his junk, for instance.
Junk? Why, these are trophies. That burnt match there was used in the first Hotfoot. Julius perfected that gag in 1903.
Spangler contribution to American culture, huh?
Well, get you. What did you ever do? Wait, wise guy, this one's even better. He panicked the whole city with this phony newspaper headline. Here.
Report of baby snakes in city water system falls?
Yeah. He tells them there's nothing to it, and they still blow their tops. That's tremendous, huh?
Yeah, quaint.
Julius was right. You got no sense of humor. The lawyer Darwin will read the will in 30 minutes, so be ready.
I passed the half hour at a window with Nicky, watching the rain slash at the glass. Then at 8 o'clock on the button, the library doors swung open, and Darwin summoned the 6 of us into the room. As we sat down, the lawyer chewed his way through the legal preliminaries. For the first time, there was a tense hush. A $500,000 changing hands was an impressive occasion. And what was more impressive was that I might get some of it. I even caught myself wondering about inheritance tax as Darwin completed the introduction of the will.
Yes, it will bring us up to the disposition of the real and personal property of Julius Spangler, who passed away this life March 26, 1949.
Oh, poor old Julius. I can't believe he's really gone, Millicent, you know.
Oh, he was a darling beneath it all, Bennett. Poor, lonely, dear Uncle Julius.
Oh, quiet. Get on with it, you old relic. Read it.
Yes, go on, please.
Yes. Well, very well. First, to my dear cousin Matthew, I leave my cyanide jar, the silk net, and the collection of nymphalidia.
Good old Julius. I knew he'd do it. Bless his old bones.
Yes, well, to Philip Marlowe, intrepid shamus. That's private detective, I think.
Oh.
Yes, private detective. With no sense of humor, 10,000 empty beer bottles worth 5 cents apiece. Clean. These aren't.
Yes. Well, for this, I skipped Ensenada. I should learn.
Oh, Phil, I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
please, Nicky. What did you expect, really?
Millicent, be quiet. Go ahead, Darwin. What about us, his real heirs?
Yes, well, to Millicent Burke Ashby, grant each $50,000, which is...
Dear Uncle Julius.
Which is the value of a fish market at Central and Northrop Streets on the condition that she personally operate this market for 1 year.
Fish market? Oh, good heavens, I think I'm going to faint.
Oh, shut up, Matthew. Go on, Darwin. Am I next?
Yes, you are. Yes. $75,000 and a dog sled.
Dog sled? Well, what's that for?
Why, to get your claim. You see, the money is the assayed minimum value of a gold claim at Point Anxiety, Alaska, which it says here you must develop with your own hands.
Why, that doddering old fool. I'll fight this travesty of a will through every court in the state. You'll never get away with this.
Oh, wait a minute. You've never worked for anything in your life, Bennett.
What was that?
Oh, you two got no more than you deserved.
Why?
What about me, Darwin? I've worked at least.
Well, Miss Spangler, I believe you better sit down. To my grandniece, Nicola, who has learned how to work hard for what she wants, I leave my sincere congratulations and $1.
Oh, no, he wouldn't. I need money now.
And finally, all the remainder of my property, real and personal, I bequeath to a most genteel, brilliant, and loyal man, my secretary, Roderick D. Driscoll. Signed by me this first
Now,
day
ain't that sweet of the old man? Oh, my...
Ben,
You left me all that
that's
money.
over $300,000 to this baboon here.
You'll never get it. I'll call my lawyer. He'll fight you here. Fight, I say.
Oh, this is horrible.
Yeah, it's too bad, baby. Well, you can have my $500 fortune in old beer bottles. Me for Ensenada.
Oh, what's so funny, Matthew?
He got what he wanted, Nicky. Let him laugh.
I'll say I did. Wow!
Shut up, Matthew.
Stop it, Matthew. You're hysterical, Matthew.
Hysterical, eh? I sure am, kiddo. But Matthew... Get a load of this!
We all stood there with our mouths hanging open as the old invalid leaped to his feet, tipped over his wheelchair, made a grab for his shock of white hair with one hand and ripped it off. It was a wig and a good one. With the other hand, he tore the phony yellow mustache off his lip and, still laughing like a ticklish hyena, he identified himself as the one and only Julius Spangler, alive and in the flesh.
Yes, this is the crowning achievement of my career. Look at you. Look at your silly faces. I wasn't going to give it away till tomorrow, but I couldn't hold it back. Ooh, this is rich. The best gag we ever pulled. Right, Roderick? Roderick!
Huh? Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. This is humiliating. I'm calling the firm at once.
You're mad, Julius. Absolutely insane.
Why? Why? Because you can't stand the smell of fish?
Oh.
What about you, Marlowe? Did I get the last laugh on you, or didn't I, eh?
You did. You're still nothing but a mixed-up jerk, Julius.
Wonderful. But I want to see you mixed up with those dirty beer bottles. Wash the labels off. Get a nickel back, you know.
I'd like to break every one of them across the bridge of your nose, funny man.
That's what I like. A good sport. How about it, Nicky? Isn't it funny?
Not very.
What do you mean? I sat in at the reading of my own will. So now I know what you really think of me.
Not quite, you don't. Because I think this.
You vixen. You spit on me. How dare you? I'll kill you for
No, you
that.
don't, Spangler. Stop it. You lay a hand on her, I'll flatten you in spite of your years. That goes for you, too, Roderick. Stay back.
None of you can take a joke. Look after these fools, Roderick. Give them anything they want. I'm going to have a good laugh all by myself.
After the mastermind of the impractical joke had guffawed his way out of the room, Roderick took his life in his hands and invited everyone to coffee and brandy. But the zest had gone out of the erstwhile airs like the snap from a second-hand girdle. So without as much as a backward glance, they all went their separate ways to their rooms. All but Marlowe. I drank coffee and brandy, and since the rain had stopped, tried for 20 minutes to threaten, bribe, and argue Roderick out of a way back to Avalon. But he swore it was impossible, and I was about to swear back at him when we heard it. We ran through the French doors at the end of the room and out. Millicent was on the walk outside, her hands clamped against her mouth, staring down at the rocks near the surging water 80 feet below.
Mrs. Ashby, what happened?
What is it? Millicent, what's the matter?
It's Julius. He's down there. He must have fallen.
Yeah. Either that or he was pushed by somebody who couldn't take a joke.
In just a moment, we will return to the second act of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. But first, it stands to reason. It's a proven fact. If we all work together to produce more per man, per machine, per hour, every one of us will gain from the cooperation. This is the American economic system. It operates for the benefit of all the people. We can and should cooperate for better jobs, higher incomes, more of the good things of life. For your free copy of the booklet, The Miracle of America, write Box 10, Times Square Station, New York City. Now, with our star, Gerald Moore, we return to the second act of Philip Marlowe and tonight's story, The Last Laugh.
It was 80 feet from Spangler's balcony to the ugly jumble of sharp black rock that lined the shore. And it was there, minutes after Millicent's all-out scream, that Roderick and I found the broken body of the man whose raucous laugh still seemed to be tangled in the wind around us. And when we turned our eyes up from the death at our feet back to the balcony above, we could barely make out the crosspiece of the porch rail still dangling at a crazy angle from its single remaining support, with all the ominous silence of a gallows.
Gee, Mr. Marlowe, I can't believe that he's gone and that all this really happened. So, Mr. Marlowe, what are you looking at?
Up there on the balcony.
Huh?
There's someone moving, Roderick. Which makes this a good time to start counting noses. Let's go. Huh?
Well, what about Millicent? Shouldn't we look after her?
No, for the time being. Come on, Roderick. I want the fastest way over those side stairs there. They lead us back up to the balcony because right now I'm in one big hurry.
There's nobody here, Marlowe. Are you sure you saw...
Hold it. Somebody's coming. Get back away from the rail.
Why, it's Bennett Haynes.
Yeah. I'm very interested in the spot where that crosspiece came loose from the top of that post.
Well, what's he doing there now? I mean, the way he's scratching something across the top of it.
The gentleman, Roderick, has forgotten that it rained.
Oh.
He's trying to strike a match on wet wood. Mr. Haynes!
What?
Would you like to use my thumbnail? It's dry.
Oh, fine. Marlowe,
What are you and Roderick doing here?
It's called spying. And you, Mr. Haynes?
I am here, Marlowe, because I think it's very strange that this accident should have happened less than an hour after Julius Spangler left a room full of people who hated him.
Which incidentally included you?
Yes, but I know that I had nothing to do with this. Now, here, a couple of matches for that stellar thumbnail.
Don't go too close to the edge, Marlowe.
Thanks, Roderick. I won't. I'll only go close enough to...
Marlowe, if you're staring at that mark across the top of the post, stop wasting your time. I just made it with that match that wouldn't light on wet wood, remember?
Mm-hmm. But that mark is not what I'm staring at. It's this green one here on the edges of the top of the post. A mark that could mean somebody pried the crosspiece loose with an object that was covered with green paint. All of which points up two things, huh? First, that someone murdered Spangler by loosening this rail, and second, that I've still got a couple of noses left to count. One belongs to a lawyer named Darwin, and the other to the fancy owner of Nick's Bar and Grill.
What's that? It's Millicent there, down below.
In trouble. Come on. Let's follow the leader with me out in front, back down the wooden stairs and over to the spot where Millicent Burke Ashby, the tailored lady, was sprawled over a lot of soft ground. Unhurt, but coming apart at the seams in more ways than one. I sent Bennett Haynes off to find Darwin and then helped Millicent to her feet. Shook well and waited for results. Millicent, make sense. Come on. Take it from the top, will you? Tell us what happened.
Oh, it was Nicky.
Yeah?
I saw her running away from the house.
Go on.
She was running toward the water.
And when you tried to stop her, she knocked you down?
Yes, she slapped me and said I should keep my mouth shut.
Did she say why?
No, she just said something about green paint.
Green paint? What about it? Come on, Millicent, think hard. What about the paint?
I don't know. What does this mean, Marlowe?
We gotta get to Nicky Spangler fast. Roderick, she was headed down toward the water. How many boats are tied up there?
Just a launch and a little...
Yeah?
No, wait a second. There's the outboard. She used to run that herself.
All right, then we split. You for the launch and me for the outboard. Now, where is it?
We're down there in that porch behind the trees. But you better let me take care of that, Marlowe. It's dark and slippery in there, and I know my way around.
No, thanks. I'll take my chances. At the moment, I'm very anxious to meet up with that lady again in person. Now, you get to the launch, and you, Millicent, back to the house. Whoever finds her, yell. Good and loud. The boat shed was a one-room bungalow on stilts. When I started inside, slowly, unsure of both my footing and the company on hand, I was suddenly very sorry that I'd left my .38 back in L.A. But in the next minute, I began to breathe easier because just visible ahead of me was the Spangler outboard. And when I got closer, I saw that it was empty. Then I heard somebody behind me. I turned just in time to see a thick, crooked branch coming at my head fast. Oh! Oh! I couldn't tell if the warm blood trickling from the cut just below my ear was from where the branch had hit my head or from where my head had hit the planking. But it didn't matter because either way it hurt. I got to my feet slowly. I reached into my pocket for one of the matches that Haynes had given me in the faint hope that a little light might reveal something about whoever had been guilty of relaxing me like a chocolate soldier in a Turkish bath. But then, even as I was about to strike the match, I stopped. Framed at one side of the open doorway was a silhouette of a man. I stood where I was and waited motionless while he slowly took a step toward me and another. When he started on his third, I grabbed him.
Let go of me.
Stop twisting your arm, Darwin. Just in case you're still carrying a thick branch.
I haven't got anything in my hand.
All right. Now, what are you doing here? Come on, barrister. At the moment you're my witness, so talk. Why are you here?
I spoke to Millicent. How, Mr. Marlowe, is the witness relieved?
Yeah, I guess so. Sorry about your arm, Darwin, but the last visitor here wasn't empty-handed. This time I wanted to be ready.
Do you have any idea who the visitor was, Mr. Marlowe?
No, I don't. I was just going to strike this match to see if I could... Oh, my head.
Oh, here, Mr. Marlowe. Let me strike it for you.
Thanks.
I doubt if it'll do any good. Oh. Now, there, you see anything?
No, nothing. Well, it was a long shot anyway.
And what? What do you see, Mr. Marlowe? What is it?
Darwin. Something I should have seen a long time ago. And by that I mean that the launch of Nicky Spangler is my next stop. Goodbye, friend. Thanks for the interruption. It may save a life. It was a 4:40 with plenty of obstacles and no lights from the boat shed down to the launch. But even as I got there, out of breath with the shooting pains in my head making a dartboard out of the lining of my scalp, I knew who had murdered Julius Spangler. What I didn't know were the whys and wherefores of the green paint that had everybody running. A minute later, I quietly climbed aboard the launch and started slowly for the stern where I could hear voices. I knew that the explanation wasn't far off. When I was close enough to see Nikki standing in the reflected light of the moonwash, I didn't have to hear anything because, clenched in her hands and held close to her side, was the answer to the marks I'd seen on the post on Spangler's balcony. It was a crowbar, the business end of it covered with green paint. Opposite her was the reason for the fear in her voice. It was the man who had killed the practical joker, Julius Spangler's ever-faithful secretary, Roderick.
You're being awful stubborn, Nicky, which is something you must have got from your late granduncle. Now, give me that crowbar.
Why? So you can get rid of it, me too, and then return to the others and mourn the loss of your employer?
Sure. I just love everyone to think that I miss him terribly when the truth is that I kill him. I hated him and his stupid jokes every minute of every day that I worked for him. Hated him, Nicky, the way I hate you and your snooping ways. Now, give me that crowbar!
Don't do it, Nicky. Don't move, Roderick. I'll blow your head off.
Phil, thank goodness.
I'll get back, Buster, get away from her, and stay in one place or I'll shoot. So help me.
Marlo, he did it. He killed Julius because he hated him.
That and a chance at $500,000, right, Broderick?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Then, oh, my head.
What is it, Marlo?
Nothing, honey. I walked into a branch that our friend here was holding a little while ago.
I still don't know what you're talking about.
And I'll make it real plain. Roderick, you killed Julius Spangler because you wanted to turn his greatest practical joke into a bonanza for yourself. You wanted that screwy will to stand. Nobody else was in on the gag, not even the lawyer. So nobody else would ever know that it was only a gag. Nor would anybody care that some wacky old cousin who liked butterflies accidentally fell to his death.
But, Marlo, Julius was killed after we all knew the whole thing was only a practical joke.
Yeah, but that wasn't part of the original plan, Nicky. Julius wasn't going to unmask himself in the joke about the will until the next morning. Isn't that also correct, Roderick?
Yeah, that's correct, smart guy.
Yeah.
I was going to get everything. But when that failed, I still wanted him to die. And I would have gotten away with that if this dame here hadn't been so curious about those green markings on the railing.
And, Roderick, if this same dame hadn't also remembered a crowbar that she'd once spilled some green paint
I
on.
heard enough.
Yeah, for the time being, I guess you have.
Oh, Marlo, it's your head again, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it the poor boy?
No, you don't, Roderick. Stay back. Marlo, you all right?
Huh?
Are you?
Not exactly, honey. Did you get him?
Yeah, with the crowbar, no less.
Oh.
But you better give me your gun in case he wakes up suddenly.
I can't. I haven't got one, baby.
You don't have one? But you're going to pass out. What'll I do with him?
Oh, baby, there's only one thing to do. Let him have it again.
Marlo, are you all right now?
Oh, yeah, I'm all right. What's going on? Oh, Nicky.
Mm-hmm, Nicky. And before you can say, where am I, I'll tell you, honey. This is Avalon, a lovely spot on the island of Santa Catalina. It's now 2 o'clock in the morning. Your head isn't so much as fractured, and you're sitting up in a chair that belongs to the nice lady who rented you this room at a reasonable price.
And the others?
All back at the place, except, of course, Roderick. Last I heard of him, he was still answering questions for policemen. Which, by the way, brings me right to the point. This I gotta know. Phil, how did you figure that Roderick was guilty?
Wet wood, Nicky. Wet wood that should have been dry. It was up on Julius Smaddlinger's balcony. The top of the post that had green marks on it was wet, even though the tight-fitting crosspiece that rested over it should have kept it dry. So obviously the rail was pried loose just before the will was read, while it was still raining.
How do you figure, Marlo?
Well, because it had stopped raining and the moon was shining by the time Matthew identified himself as Julius Spangler.
But no one would have wanted to kill Uncle Julius without having heard the will.
Nobody but Roderick, who was in on the whole joke and knew that he was going to get $300,000 out of the phony will. So he merely pushed the old man off the balcony, made it look like an accident, see?
Yeah. And you doped all this out just like that?
Well, no, not just like that, Nicky. Finally, I caught on. And now, sweetheart, in spite of the bandage, I think a little stroll along the beach is going to do me a lot of good. You know, I'm officially on vacation. Rest and recreation for 2 full days at least.
Here in Avalon, maybe?
Where else? See you later, Nicky. When I got outside and down to the pretty strip of beach that runs along behind the spot where the steamer docks. I felt a lot better. I sat down on the moon-drenched sand and relaxed for the first time that night. As I sat there, I reached into my breast pocket for a cigarette, but instead came out with the expensive cigar that Matthew Spangler had given me. It wasn't until I had lit it and was puffing along that I suddenly remembered that Matthew Spangler had really been Julius, so I got rid of the cigar. Hey, just in time. Yeah, I wasn't sure, but maybe Julius Spangler, wherever he was having the last laugh, after all.
The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, created by Raymond Chandler, star Gerald Moore, and are produced and directed by Norman MacDonald. Script is by Mel Donnelly, Robert Mitchell, and Gene Levitt. Featured in the cast were Ellen Reed as Julia Spangler and Doris Singleton as Nicky, with Ann Morrison, John Daner, Paul Duboff, and Peter Leeds. The special music is by Richard O'Runt. Be sure and be with us again next week when Philip Marlowe says...
The partner from Mexico City, the stranger dead in Nevada, and the man with the cauliflower ear all added up to a corpse on a concrete floor. But I couldn't figure why until I'd found out that there was one name above all that had to be remembered.
Tonight, CBS's great hour-long Saturday night fun show, Sing It Again, will be back on the air after a week's absence. Be sure to be around later tonight when Sing It Again returns with its phantom voice mystery and its riddle songs, which pay off in wonderful prizes. This is Roy Rowan speaking. Now, stay tuned for The Case of the Red-Headed Bank Robber, tonight's gangbusters drama, which follows immediately over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
HOJO Radio, where the classics come alive.
The partner from Mexico City, the stranger dead in Nevada, and the man with the cauliflower ear all added up to a corpse on a concrete floor. But I couldn't figure why until I found out there was one name above all that had to be remembered.
From the pen of Raymond Chandler, outstanding author of crime fiction, comes his most famous character in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. Now, with Gerald Moore, starred as Philip Marlowe, we bring you tonight's exciting story, The Name to Remember.
The big clock at the far end of the Beverly Room cocktail lounge with the opaque glass ice cubes where there should have been numbers said it was 20 after 5. That meant my new client, Eddie Millette, was late. So sitting at an uncomfortable mushroom for 2, I waited and worked on a long drink and stared down into the mirrored top of my table. I stopped staring when the reflection in the tabletop changed from red ceiling to gray Hamburg and pale blue eyes in an almost friendly face. I looked up to find easygoing Eddie Millette looking about as he had been a year ago. Dapper in draped flannel, carnation attached, and a thin smile on thinner lips. He sat down, took off his hat, and shook hands all in one quick motion. And I knew he was either in trouble, a hurry, or both.
Marlowe, business.
Business.
You gotta find the nut who's been following me for the last couple of days. He's big. A lot of muscle under a T-shirt and a kind of jacket like the Dodgers wear when they're warming up, you know what I mean? I can't figure out what this bird's after. That bothers me. All the time he's like it.
What?
Hanging around.
Oh.
And if I go for him, he runs. So what I want you to do is, you get next to him and the answer to this tag. Here, 50, 70, 80, $100. Enough, Phil?
Enough. You know, Eddie, the law might do this for you for free.
Yeah, for John Doe, they might. But Eddie Millette's another story, Marlowe. You know what I mean? Today I got a respectable business, war surplus. But the cops, they only remember me as a guy who once did time for being careless with other people's dough.
Yeah.
Besides, I'm in a hurry. My 2 partners, Lou Tripp and Ruth Dunn. She's also my girl. They're coming back to town tonight. I'd like to spend some time with both of them, without interruption.
What do you mean, girl, Eddie? You and that pretty wife I've heard about split up?
Yeah, I'm suing for divorce right now. Tina and I never should have been, Marlowe. Yeah, I need someone who's softer, more honest and understanding, know what I mean? Now take this here route.
Can I help you, sir?
Huh? Oh, yeah, scotch. No buzz. Make it a double. Very well, sir. This Ruth Marlowe, she's different. Good head for business, sweet kid at the same time. Like, for instance, the letter I got from her today. She and Lou were both in Mexico City. She's got all the dope on the deal we're working on, plus the fact she's worrying about me.
That should bring us right back to T-shirt. Remember, where do I start, Eddie?
That's the only place I know of, Marlowe. Yesterday, I kind of turned the tables on this guy. Trailed him down to the corner of Wilshire and Western. But he got away in the middle of a lot of traffic, you know what I mean?
In a car?
Huh?
Car.
Oh, no, we were both walking.
No.
Now, I figured from his bill and that T-shirt, he could work on one of these health clubs around here. You find out, then come to my place on Hoover before 8, huh? By the way, he's got black curly hair and one ear's all banged up, cauliflower-like. Right one. Anything else?
No, Eddie, I'll see you. Know what I mean?
Huh?
2 hours after I'd left Eddie Millette, I checked with a half a dozen hooray for health clubs in the neighborhood, smelled a lot of liniment, and came away with nothing more than distended nostrils. So at 7:30, I pointed my car toward 8400 North Hoover, in the hope that my client could give me something else to go on. The Millette home was well-groomed and sat sedately behind 50 rolling yards of carefully clipped hedge, and said the gardener must have gone to barber's college. So when I leaned against the front doorbell, I expected Eddie in at least a silk-lapelled smoking jacket with slippers to match. But when the door swung open, I got a surprise, because I was greeted instead by a lot of white T-shirt, and in front of that and coming straight for my head was a fist the size of a muskmelon.
Oh! Okay, private detective hired by Eddie Millette in the Beverly room. Gear up. No. Don't so much as smile crooked or I'll twist your arm in two. What is it you want?
Oh, one thing, a chance to bust you in the nose.
What nerve.
Yeah?
Listen, stupid, if I had the time, I'd tie your arm into a square knot, then rip it off at the hinges and throw it away. But right now, I've got what I came for. I'm in a hurry, so you're real lucky.
How about Eddie Millette, Muscles? How lucky is he?
Very. He's inside, resting. Just like you're gonna be, mister!
By the time I got back to my feet and had my right arm unscrewed to where I could reach across my chest and my shoulder holster, a T-shirt was gone. So I started into the house, and what I knew was going to be a slightly beat-up client. When I turned on the lights and found nothing in the kitchen, bathroom, or bedroom, I began to worry a little more. I got to the den and saw that the drawers of a desk that were turned inside out, but there was still no Eddie. I opened a side door and started out to the patio, which ran along the front of the house. But then at the staccato report of high heels coming up the flagstone path that led to the front door, I stopped and waited. When the lady, who was a quiet face and quiet clothes, came to a halt in the open doorway, puzzled, and called Eddie's name out loud, I figured this had to be Ruth Dunn, girlfriend and partner out of Mexico City. So I walked back through the house to the living room.
Eddie, it's Ruth. Eddie Millette, are you playing a game with me? Why, who are you? What are you doing here?
I'm Philip Marlowe, Miss Dunn. I was hired by your boyfriend because he was worried about a bunch of muscles in a T-shirt with curly black hair, a cauliflower ear, and a brain you could drop through the hole in a lifesaver. Mean anything to you?
Well, no, it doesn't. But where's Eddie, Mr. Marlowe, and why is the front door open like this, and why are all the lights on?
In that order, I don't know where Eddie is. Front door's open because that's where T-shirt and I played Ben, the private detective, and all the lights are on because I was looking for Eddie.
But he's not here anyplace? The bedroom, the kitchen?
So far, no. Come on in here, see if this desk in the den adds for you, maybe. Drawers have been slightly rearranged by a very heavy hand. Hey, incidentally, T-shirt was bragging about getting what he'd come for just as he collapsed me for the second time, so if you...
Oh, the letters. They're gone.
What letters?
The ones I wrote to Eddie while I was on the road. He always kept them here in the bottom drawer.
Were they business or pleasure?
Well, business mostly, but I did talk of other things, too.
Yeah, I know. Eddie mentioned that when he told me about you and Lou Tripp being due back tonight. Oh, by the way, where is Tripp?
Why, I don't know. He left me in Mexico City the day before yesterday and said he'd be here tonight at the latest. Oh, surely, Marlowe, you don't think that Lou had anything to do with this?
Could be. Letters are part business.
And part love. So I'd say that the only person who could possibly be behind this is
Mrs. Millett.
Tina?
Yes. And for the oldest and best reason in the world, Marlowe. Jealousy. Tina'd do anything to make Eddie and me unhappy. She could twist the innocent wording of those letters so that any divorced judge would see things her way. She's cruel, Marlowe, and she... Marlowe. Under that door there that leads to the garage. It's blood, Marlowe.
Stay over there, Ruth.
Oh, Eddie. Eddie, are you... Oh, no. Oh, Marlowe, he's dead. Isn't he?
Yeah, honey. I'm afraid he is. Eddie Millett was dead. Real dead.
Oh, Eddie.
The right side of his head crushed in. And next to him and on the edge of the ugly pool of blood that had seeped under the door was the grease-coated tire iron that had done the job. I turned Ruth away, and it wasn't until we were back in the living room and she'd stopped sobbing long enough to take the double shot of brandy that I'd forced on her that I started for the telephone and a call to Detective Lieutenant Ibarra at Homicide. But before I could pick up the receiver, it went off. Hello?
This is Lieutenant Ibarra at police headquarters.
Ibarra?
Huh?
How great can service be? This is Marlowe. I was just going to call you.
Did I dial your office number by mistake, Marlowe?
No mistake, Lieutenant. I'm at Eddie Millett's. I've been working for him since this afternoon. What's up? Why the call?
A dead man named Ellis Clay in a motel outside of Carson City, Nevada, Phil.
Yeah?
It looks like an accidental explosion in his room there, and the best the sheriff has for identification other than his name and the city, Los Angeles, is a blank sheet of letterhead paper from Eddie Millett's war surplus outfit. So I thought Millett might be able to help us out. Is he there?
Yeah. And dead, Ibarra.
Huh?
Murdered with a tire iron sometime in the last hour.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Any idea who did it?
A muscle man in a T-shirt, maybe? But at the moment, Ibarra, the motive seems to be a little mixed. Say, wait a minute. I may be able to help you on that Nevada guy. Ruth. Ruth, do you know anything about a man named Clay in Carson City? He had Eddie's address on him when he was killed in an accident.
Clay?
Yeah.
In Nevada?
Mm-hmm.
No, Phil, no, I don't.
No. Hello, Ibarra.
Yes?
The girl here, who was one of Eddie's partners, never heard of him.
All right, but that's unimportant now. What I am interested in is Millett's death. What's the address out there? And why
It's
is it you take so
8400
long
North Hoover.
North what?
Hoover, as in vacuum cleaner. But look, if it's all the same to you, Ibarra, I'd like to move, and I think if I do it fast enough, I've got an even chance of catching up with this T-shirt. Okay?
Well, all right, Marlowe, but don't forget, we've got a couple of thousand policemen here in L.A., just in case you can't...
Yeah. Goodbye, Ibarra. Ruth, honey, why don't you go over to your own place and try to take it easy, huh? When I talk to Ibarra again, I'll tell him where you can be found.
All right, Phil. But where are you going?
To the only place that adds now, Tina Millett's. You know where it is?
Yeah, the Cameo House on Rexford Drive in Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if it's any help, she drives a new cream-colored Nash. But Marlowe, be careful. Tina may be the one who hired that man in the T-shirt.
Yeah, I know. And that, honey, is exactly what I'm banking on. I'll call you. After I got the vital statistics on where I could reach Ruth later on, I piled into my car and headed for Beverly Hills and the Cameo House, which was 6 stories of white stone and glass brick. Tina Millett managed to scrimp by with half of the top floor, and a couple of minutes later, when I got out of the all-mirror elevator, walked to her door, rang, and waited. I was wondering what kind of a reception I'd get. But when the door opened, I stopped wondering and started concentrating.
You want something?
In something the texture of spun smoke rings. It stood 5 feet 6 inches over the threshold and must have weighed in at close to 120. With every inch a thing of beauty, and every pound just in the right place.
I asked you if you wanted something. Do you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the name's Philip Marlowe, Mrs. Millett. I'm a private detective your husband hired this afternoon. Why don't you let me in like a good little girl, huh?
Because that's something I'm not. Now get out of here before I call the police.
Well, probably on their way up here right now.
Oh?
Your husband's dead, Mrs. Millett. He was murdered.
Eddie murdered?
Yeah. Now, do you still mind if I come in?
No, of course not. I don't know what to say.
Oh, that's a trite line.
What was that?
I said you're acting and doing a bum job of it.
Why, I ought to slap your face.
Or call your boy with the muscles and have him go back to work on my arm for a while?
What are you talking about?
A lad in a white T-shirt who killed Eddie and then stole a bunch of letters that were going to help you lie your way through a countersuit for divorce. It would leave Eddie both broke and embarrassed.
You don't make sense, bright boy.
No?
First of all, I don't know who you're talking about. And second, if I were going to file such a countersuit, why would I want my husband killed first?
Maybe you didn't. We all make mistakes, Mrs. Millette.
Which is only one man's opinion. So why don't I just pick up my coat here and let the perfect gentleman escort me to the nearest police station?
All right, it's a date. I see you bowled quite a bit, Tina. Good enough to win that cup there from the Maplewood Alleys on Wilshire near Weston. Eddie figured a health club, and I went right along. Never thought about the bowling alley near there, and
Yes, Marlowe? You were saying something?
Yes, I was, but the little gun in your hand made me lose my place.
Marlowe, I don't believe that Eddie's dead. Nor do I believe that you work for him at all. For my money, you're just a not-so-smart boy who was hired by that hussy Ruth Dunn. She's going to need an army of private detectives before I get through, and I mean that. Now back up through those doors and get out onto the fire escape.
While you do what?
Well, I find out exactly what's going on. I'll get out there. It's 6 long floors to the ground, Marlowe. And I hope with the first step you take that you trip, fall all the way, and break your neck. Goodbye, private detective.
In just a moment, we will return to the second act of The Adventures of Philip Marlowe. But first, just a little later on CBS tonight, you'll hear Sing It Again's Master of Ceremonies, Dan Seymour, giving a perfect characterization of a man going crazy. The reason? Well, Dan's got the biggest, hottest news in the history of quiz shows ready for announcement right after someone knocks off tonight's $20,500 Phantom Voice mystery. So be sure to hear Sing It Again tonight when it comes to you at 10 o'clock Eastern Time on most of these same CBS stations. And now with our star, Gerald Moore, we return to the second act of Philip Marlowe and tonight's story, The Name to Remember.
When Tina Millette prodded me out onto the fire escape through a pair of French doors, slammed them shut, and snapped the lock, there was a cold look in her smoky eyes and an unwavering potential about the snub-nosed gun clenched in her hand and pointed straight at my belt buckle that melted all the gambler out of me fast. So I watched quietly as she backed across the room to the hall door and out. I knew my chances of climbing down 6 flights of iron fire escape in time to head her off was an idiot's dream. So, kicked the panel out of one of the doors, reached through and finally got it unlocked. And I went back inside to the phone. Since the vixen was on the prowl with a gun in her fist, I figured the least I could do was pass the word along.
Hello?
Ruth, this is Marlowe.
Oh, Phil. Have you found the letters?
Not yet, but never mind that now. You got something more important to worry about because your guess on Eddie's ex-wife, Tina, was right on the button.
You mean she's the one who's really after the letters?
Yeah, that muscle man in the T-shirt is just doing a heavy work for her. And I've got a good idea that he's connected with the Maplewood bowling alley on Wilshire.
Where are you now, Phil?
In Tina's apartment, alone. I just lost a small debate with her. And get this, Ruth. She hates you, and she's the type who hates hard. Yeah. When she left here, she had a gun, and the chances are at least 50-50 that she's coming your way. So keep your doors locked and stay away from windows, savvy?
Yeah, okay, Phil.
Oh, one more thing before I shove off. Has Millette's partner, Lou Tripp, shown yet?
No, at least he hasn't called me.
Uh-huh.
But where are you going, Phil?
That bowling alley on Wilshire. Only this time I'm swinging first. Maplewood was a small and dusky combination 6-lane bowling alley restaurant, bar, and magazine stand, and cigar store, all slightly down at the heel and more than hungry for business. Only 2 alleys were in use, and a lanky postgraduate delinquent with a mouthful of gum and a complexion 1 tone greener than his eyeshade was the only houseman in sight. He looked up and watched me as I moved over to the bulletin board where a bank of photographs were tacked up, picturing the champions of the local league. Sure enough, there in the top row and holding a bowling ball that had more expression than his face was the pile of muscles in a T-shirt, which the caption tagged as one Sid Sawyer. So I walked over to the counter where the houseman sat and made like a one-man fan club.
What's your problem, Mac?
I see Sid's up there with the champs. Is he around tonight?
I wouldn't know.
Where can I get in touch with him?
I wouldn't have the faintest idea, Mac.
He works here, doesn't he?
Yeah, off and on.
But you don't know where he lives or what his phone number is, huh?
Well, you're just beginning to get the idea.
Come here, you.
Cut it out, will you? Take your hands off
You
of
get
me.
the idea and get it fast unless you want your teeth crammed down your throat. Where does Sawyer live?
Now, wait a minute, mister. Take it easy. I'll tell you. He's got a room over on Shadow Street, 6340. Upstairs. He don't have no phone.
All right, that's better. Is he there now?
I think so. But, gee, I don't know why everybody is so interested in Sid Sawyer all of a sudden.
Who else is interested?
Some babe called a couple of minutes ago. An old friend, she said. That's the reason I give you the store.
Yeah?
Honest. You see, Sid don't like to be interrupted when he's entertaining old friends.
Is that so? Well, this is one party that's going to get crowded whether he likes it or not. 6340 Shadow Street was a top-heavy, stale gingerbread house, left over from the days when Los Angeles was a stopover between Spanish missions. I got out of my car and started across the street toward the door when I saw Tina Millette's cream-colored sedan sticking out through a tangle of overgrown brush in the driveway, which meant I was still in time for the big reunion. So I went inside and up the steps to Sawyer's door. There was a light on and movement, but no voices. I slipped my gun out of its holster, knocked lightly, and stepped back. The knob turned slowly and the door cracked open. I kicked hard! Yeah, don't move, Muscles. I'm returning your visit. Where's Tina?
Who's Tina?
Look, her car's outside in the driveway. She's here after the letters, isn't she?
What letters? You're nuts. I don't know what you're talking about.
And these suitcases, you wouldn't be skipping town, would you?
Listen, Shamus, you're barking up the wrong tree. I don't know anything, get me?
Yeah? Okay, Sawyer, if you insist, we'll do it the hard way. That squares us for that arm-twisting job you gave me. Now we'll start all over again even. Get up! Come on!
Quit hitting me with that gun.
I don't enjoy doing it, so the faster you talk, the sooner I'll stop. Where's Tina?
I don't know what you do.
Now make it straight. I haven't got all night.
All right. No more.
That's better.
She came and picked up the letters, and she left again. 5 minutes before you got here.
5 minutes, you're lying. Take a look out that window and tell me why your car's still outside.
I don't know what... Where? I don't see it.
In the driveway next door. Holy smoke, it's gone. All right, Sawyer, that means I can spare 30 seconds for the rest of the story, so make it fast. She told you little Eddie Millette is dead. That's why you're blowing town, isn't it?
No. Now, wait a minute, Marlowe. I never killed him. I just knocked him down.
Sure, on a concrete floor with a tire iron.
No,
Skip it. Those letters you got were written by Ruth Dunn. Was Tina heading for Ruth when she left here?
I don't know.
Come on, Sawyer, I'm running out of time. Won't do you any good to try to protect Tina now.
Oh, no. We'll see about that, Marlowe.
Why, you... I hope Tina was worth a broken jaw. Good night, Muscles. I took a close look at Sawyer to be sure he was down for the long count. Then I stepped out the door and into a whispering circle of wide-eyed neighbors who had heard the fight and had already called the police. I flashed my identification, issued a battle order to the three huskiest ones, and then ran down the stairs to my car. I made it from Shadow Street to Ruth's bungalow on Normandy in something under 5 minutes, but still not fast enough. Because when I ground to a stop in front of the place, I saw that same cream-colored sedan already there, close to a side door. I belted up the walk and was halfway to the house when I heard it. It made me sick. Went up to a front window where the only light was burning and looked in. The room had been torn up, and in the middle of it all, face down on the tangled carpet, was Tina Millette. And it was Ruth who was slumped in a chair, her face buried in her arms and sobbing hysterically. And still dangling from her hand was Tina's snub-nosed revolver. She looked up as I walked in.
Phil, I killed her, Phil.
I know. Come on, baby. Take it easy. It's going to be all right.
Oh, she had this gun. She was crazy, Phil. She was going to kill me. I don't know what happened. I struggled with her, and then I realized I had the gun in my hand. I shot her. I didn't even think. I just pulled the trigger on her. Is she dead, Phil?
Yeah. Come on, Ruth. Leave it alone. It's over now. Now try to get hold of yourself.
She brought the letters back. They're on the desk. She said that they didn't matter anymore, that she was mixed up in Eddie's murder and there was nothing left for her but to run. She said she took the gun out of her purse and said I'd ruined her whole life and that she was going to be sure I got what was coming to me before she left. That's when it happened, Phil. I was so scared I went out of my head, I guess.
Yeah, we better call Ibarra, honey. I think we can explain it all now, except... Except one thing. Ruth, do you remember that guy Ibarra called us about? The one who was killed in Nevada?
Ellis Clay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Clay. I've had the feeling all night that some way his death is tied up with all this. It's only a hunch, but something seems to be missing.
What is it, Phil? What's missing?
I don't know yet. Look, honey, I want to take a look at these letters. You go call the police, will you? It was a long shot, but while Ruth went down the hall to phone the police, I flipped through the bundle of envelopes that had caused all the trouble. And the long shot began to pay off. I could hear Ruth talking to a desk sergeant as I picked up Tina's revolver. I broke it open. Then a pair of headlights and a red spot of a police car flashed in the driveway, and I knew that Ibarra had figured out a few things for himself. I put the gun down on the table again, told Ruth to forget her call, and when the lieutenant came in, Ruth and I together explained everything that had happened right up to Tina Millett's body on the floor.
Well, it's quite a mess, isn't it? Anyway, this part of it looks like a clear case of self-defense. Right, Marlowe?
Exactly right, Ibarra. It looks like self-defense, only there's something missing.
Something missing? What do you mean, Marlowe?
At least 3 letters from that packet there. I think they're the last ones you wrote to Eddie, Ruth. They're gone.
Oh, that's strange. I don't understand it.
And another missing item is Lou Tripp, Eddie's partner. He didn't show up tonight because I think he's in Nevada, dead under the name of Clay.
What? Marlowe, you mean that Lou and that Clay were really the same man?
Mm-hmm.
But what are you getting at with all this theory, Marlowe?
You'll see, Ibarra. Lou Tripp was double-crossing Eddie Millette. Lou went to Mexico with Ruth here, only he left early and flew to Nevada to close a big deal under the name of Clay. Meanwhile, some letters were written from Mexico to preserve the illusion that Lou Tripp was still there. Understand what I mean, Ruth?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. And then the unexpected happened. Lou, identified as Clay, died accidentally in Nevada. That meant that sooner or later those letters would be exposed as lies. Right, Ruth?
Marlowe, that gun on the table, watch it.
Too late, Lieutenant. Now, don't move. Either one of you.
You haven't got a chance, baby.
Stay back. Please, Phil, I don't want to kill you, but I will if you come one step closer.
Stay back, Marlowe. She means it.
Look, baby, you're licked.
Marlowe.
It was a good try, but you lost.
Stay back.
Why not go out?
Like a lady.
Oh, what difference does it make now?
Well, Marlowe, when she cracked, she really went to pieces and told the whole story.
Yeah?
Yeah, she and Lou Tripp were working together all right. When he died in Nevada, the lies she told in those letters put her in a tight jam with Eddie, see?
So when she found Eddie unconscious in his garage, she finished him. But when she went for the letters, Sid Sawyer scared her off. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the state is going to give Sawyer a long vacation in one of their better institutions.
Good, good. What happened down at Sawyer's place, Ibarra?
You know, Ruth had a lot of nerve, Marlowe.
Yeah.
She found Tina Millette's car at Sawyer's, so she waited in the back seat until Tina came out with the letters. Then she sapped her, drove the car to her house, and faked that slick self-defense setup. And she still doesn't know where she made the mistake that caught her. Hey, where was it, Phil?
Well, she was being real cagey, Ibarra. She decided it was too dangerous to write the name Clay down anyplace, so she made it a name to remember. And she did. But too well.
What do you mean, Phil?
Well, when I asked her for it, the first name Ellis popped out, too.
Mm-hmm.
There was no legitimate way for her to know that you gave me the full name over the phone, but I only gave her Clay. That was an opening, but I needed proof.
Mm-hmm. So you needled her until she made a break. Then you walked into the gun she'd grabbed. You take some long chances, Phil.
Oh, I'll do anything to see justice prevail, Ibarra.
I smell a rat.
You should. I emptied the gun when she was phoning.
Good night, Phil.
Good morning, Ibarra. When I left police headquarters and walked to my car, first gray streaks of a new day were breaking in the east. Should have given me a lift, but it didn't. And now it was time for me to go home and go to bed, but instead I sat in my car with the door open and smoked a cigarette while I watched the dawn come up. I couldn't help thinking what an odd trick nature plays on us. Some of her most beautiful creatures are her most deadly. For instance, Ruth. How soft and sweet and lovely she was. And how hard she could swing a tire iron.
The Adventures of Philip Marlowe, created by Raymond Chandler, star Gerald Moore, and are produced and directed by Norman MacDonald. Script is by Mel Donnelly, Robert Mitchell, and Gene Levitt. Featured in the cast were Gene Bates, Paul Frees, Yvonne Patey, Jack Moyles, and Jerry Hausner. Detective Lieutenant Ibarra is played by Jeff Corey. The special music is by Richard Orant. Be sure and be with us again next week when Philip Marlowe says...
It was hot and still, an August night in the middle of April. But that didn't matter to the striptease dancer in the golden mask, because murder made her blood run cold the night the heat wave struck.
There'll be more dramatic excitement of the chase tomorrow on CBS's two Sunday shows, Broadway is My Beat and The Adventures of Sam Spade. Broadway is My Beat brings you The Adventures of Danny Clover, whose beat is the Great White Way and whose cases involve a vast, strange assortment of Broadway characters. Later, Dashiell Hammett's great detective, Sam Spade, cuts another caper surrounded by mystery and mayhem in the grand style. The Adventures of Sam Spade and Broadway is My Beat are regular Sunday features on most of these same CBS stations. This is Roy Rowan speaking. Now, stay tuned for Gangbusters, which follows immediately on most of these stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Our next broadcast was a radio series that was loosely based on a private detective character created by writer Dashiell Hammett for the Maltese Falcon. The show ran for 13 episodes on ABC in 1946, for 157 episodes on CBS from 1946 to 1947, and finally for 51 more episodes on NBC from 1949 to 1951. The series starred Howard Duff as the titular character and Lauren Tuttle as his secretary Effie. We proudly present to you The Adventures of Sam Spade on HOJO Radio.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Detective. Brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic, the non-alcoholic hair tonic that contains lanolin. Wild Root Cream Oil. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first.
Sam Spade Detective Agency.
Listen, you phone down to the drugstore and tell them to send up 3 gallons of black coffee.
Who is this? Are you sure you have the right number?
I'm sure I've got the right number, but I'm not so sure who I am.
Oh, Sam, it's you. You must have had a frog in your throat. Did you oversleep?
Effie, don't say things like that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sam. Oh, you poor dear, you've been working. You're tired, that's it.
Tired? I've only just brought Lazarus back from the dead.
Well, then you better get some rest, Sam. You can dictate your report tomorrow.
That's what you think. Now stay where you are. If I'm asleep when I get there, wake me up. I'll be right down to dictate my report on the Lazarus caper.
Dashiell Hammett, America's leading detective fiction writer and creator of Sam Spade, the hard-boiled private eye, and William Spear, radio's outstanding producer-director of mystery and crime drama, join their talents to make your hair stand on end with the adventures of Sam Spade. Presented by the makers of Wild Root Cream Oil for the hair. Next time you buy hair tonic, be sure you buy Wild Root Cream Oil. For you see, Wild Root Cream Oil gives you these advantages. It grooms your hair neatly and naturally, relieves annoying dryness, removes loose, ugly dandruff. Wild Root Cream Oil is non-alcoholic and contains soothing lanolin, so much like the natural oil of your skin. Yes, friends, next time you buy hair tonic, look for that famous name, Wild Root. Get Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. And now, with Howard Duff starring as Spade, Wild Root brings to the air the greatest private detective of them all. in the adventures of Sam Spade.
Effie!
In here, Sam, in your private office.
Yeah, private, she says. I'd like to know what's private about it.
I have everything ready for you, Sam.
What's this?
Ovaltine, to relax.
I don't want to relax. I don't dare.
Oh, there you go again, Sam. Going on nerves. How long do you think you can keep it up?
With your help, I'll be in a coma inside 3 minutes.
Thank you, Sam. Now, you just lie down here on the couch, and I'll take your shoes off.
Now, look,
And I can take dictation while you relax.
Nuts. Where's that black coffee?
Sam, you're angry with me. Your eyes. Please don't glare at me like that, Sam. I can't bear it when you...
I am not glaring. I'm trying to keep them open. Now, sit down. I got to keep moving around.
Oh, you
moving
shouldn't
around.
drive yourself like this, Sam.
Please, Effie, please. Date, fill it in.
Well, it's your life. Go on. Burn yourself at both ends.
Let's see. To A.J. Tatspaw, claims manager, All Risk Insurance Company, Tide Building, San Francisco. From Samuel Spade, license number 137596. Dear Sir, the following is an accounting of my services to your company in connection with a claim of Emma R. Lazarus on the life of the assured Timothy R. Lazarus. The latter called at my office yesterday at approximately 11:30 a.m. He was tall, bald, gray-faced, and dusty. He looked as if he'd been buried and dug up several times.
This may sound like a poor sort of jest, Mr. Spade, but my name is Lazarus, and I want you to bring me back from the dead.
Well, sounds interesting. Why did you die? When did you die? And how did you die?
I was declared dead by the appellate court of the state of California, August 28th last year, by reason of 7 years' absence.
Who took it to court?
My wife, Emma.
Insurance?
Yes. My wife and I agreed between ourselves to insure my life in the amount of $100,000 that she would collect on legal presumption of death after my disappearance and continued absence for 7 years. That's the law, Mr. Spade.
Yeah, it's been tried a lot of times. What went wrong in your case? Wife double-cross you?
If that's your attitude, I'm afraid I've come to the wrong man.
Uh-huh. You're still in love with her. Well, that makes it tough. You know they'll nail her for perjury if you prove you're still alive?
But that's why I didn't go to the police. Even though we'd planned the deception together, she had reason to believe that I was actually dead.
Suppose you cover the whole thing from the beginning, Mr. Lazarus.
Yes. I married her back in 1940, and for a while we were happy. And then she became restless.
You mean you were not able to support her in the manner to which she was accustomed? She was young, lovely, you wanted her to have nice things, but on your meager salary it was impossible.
Oh, I know, it's an old story, but life is like that.
Well, you said it.
Yeah, well... There you are. I was assistant cashier at the Golden Gate Bank.
Oh, no, not that.
I started taking small sums at first, meaning to repay them later on.
Look, let's not go through the whole script. How much did you embezzle?
$20,000.
Yeah, so you decided to take it on the lam before the auditors came in, and...
I was going to give myself up, but Emma wouldn't let me. We made our plans that night, and I left for Mexico the following day. In Mexico City, I had plastic surgery done on my face, and then I settled down to wait the 7 long years until I would be declared legally dead. I suppose you might call it poetic justice, but just before the end of the 7th year, I contracted malaria. I was confined to a hospital for more than 11 months.
You have had it.
Oh, the doctors gave me up for dead and asked me to notify my next of kin. I gave them Emma's address. I never notified her to the contrary because it seemed to fit in so well with our plan.
Too well, huh?
Yes. I'd been to see her, and she refuses to believe that I am her husband. Oh, of course, my appearance is very much altered, but there must be some way to prove my identity.
You worked in a bank. They must have taken your fingerprints.
I removed them from the files and destroyed them.
How are your teeth?
My teeth?
Teeth. Who was your dentist here in town?
Dr. Smith, the Drake Professional Building.
He'll still have your dental x-rays on file. They're as good as fingerprints. You go there this afternoon. Don't give your name. Tell them you're Mark Humboldt. Have a new set of x-rays taken, and I'll do the rest. What's your wife doing these days?
Why, Emma's married again.
Who's the sucker?
Pardon me?
The man.
Oh, he's a doctor. Dr. Ernst Wilhelm.
Wilhelm?
He's quite well known, I believe.
Yeah, and the cops would like to know more. Now, about my fee.
Mr. Spade, I have no money.
Oh, that's great. You have no money, and all you want is to hire a man to bring you back from the dead. And the more I succeed, the less chance I'll have of collecting.
If I might make a suggestion, Mr. Spade, I don't know the ethics, but perhaps the insurance company? You would be doing them a great service.
I think you're going to live, Mr. Lazarus. They can't keep a good man down. I'll collect from them. I knew there wasn't a chance in 100,000 of shaking a fee out of your company. After all, you have your own investigators in the payroll, and contract work isn't deductible under the new tax law, but something about Lazarus had gotten to me. Something else about him got to me at the Blue Bottle Bar and Grill, where I stopped for lunch.
Mr. Spade?
Yes, indeedy.
I'm Emma Wilhelm, Mr. Spade.
Emma Lazarus Wilhelm?
I see you do know who I am. May I sit down?
Slide in, Mrs. Wilhelm.
Thank you. I'm glad to know you have a sense of humor, Mr. Spade. It's about that man, of course. Surely you didn't believe a word of his story.
Which word?
Oh, I'll admit there are slight traces of the truth in his raving. My first husband, Timothy Lazarus, was an embezzler. He did disappear, and it's quite true that I have collected the insurance on his life. I might even believe that Tim is still alive. But that man is not he.
Then what are you so upset about?
Oh, it's perfectly obvious what he wants. He's an extortionist.
You're wrong. He doesn't want money, Mrs. Wilhelm. He wants you.
Oh, Mr. Spade, how much do you know about my husband?
Which one?
Don't be flippant.
Dr. Ernest Wilhelm. He made his first million panning lead nuggets out of gang war casualties and lost it on the stock market. He cut his second million out of Nob Hill and called it surgery. He lost that on horses, blinds, and malpractice suits. The last time he was mentioned in the paper, there was a big picture of him pumping sleeping pills out of the stomach of an aging burlesque queen. It may or may not have been coincidence that she did not recover, and that she was the ex-girlfriend of one of our better-known racetrack haberdashers, and if he got $100 for the job, he was paid off in boodle.
Oh, please. Please don't say any more. That poor girl. And he'll do the same thing to me.
Well,
if you persist in helping that imposter, you'll be responsible for whatever happens to me or anyone else you involve.
Anything else I should know?
Yes. Both you and your client are being watched and followed. You can't escape him. He's not quite the has-been you'd like to think he is.
After she had gone, I scraped her tears off my butter, finished my lunch, washed my hands with a nationally advertised soap, and mushed over to the Drake Professional Building. I found my client's dentist in his lab polishing up a set of gold inlays.
Humboldt? Oh, yes. His x-rays have come through. Only set today. They're on the clamp there. Don't touch them. They're not dry yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's your interest? Police identification?
You guessed it.
Always happy to cooperate.
Thanks. How about digging in your files for the x-rays on a patient named Lazarus?
Oh, yes, be glad to, of course. Well, let's see now. Larrabee, Lavelle, Lawrence, Lawson, Gluskin. That's G. What's that doing here? Ah, Lazarus. Timothy R. Is that your man?
That's the name.
Oh, Jimmy, April 1940. Should have been in for dental hygiene. Have to remind Miss Baker. That's my nurse.
These pictures, how do they compare with this new set?
Well, now, let's have a look. Switch on the light there, will you please? And let's see. Malocclusion, lower bicuspids, impacted third molar. Ah, erosion inlay. Yes, it's very interesting.
You mean they're the same in both sets of pictures?
Oh, dear, no.
A man's mouth could change a lot in 7 years, couldn't it?
Yes, especially with dental neglect, but that would never cause a man to grow new teeth.
Oh, well.
You see here, Humboldt has one more lower incisor and 2 more molars than Lazarus. And the whole character of the mouth is different. Well, these 2 men would not look even faintly alike.
Well, could there have been some mistake in filing?
Oh, dear, no. Miss Baker's been with me for 10 years. Never made a mistake yet.
Could I talk to her?
Not in today. Been out since Tuesday. Cold. Oh, say, by the way, you're a detective. How's this for a mystery? She phoned me this morning and thanked me for sending a doctor around to examine her. Now, this is the peculiar part. I have no recollection of having done so, and I'm not acquainted with the doctor she said I sent her.
That wouldn't be a Dr. Ernst Wilhelm.
Why, yes. Wilhelm. That was the name.
Do her another favor, will you? Call a doctor you do know and tell him to get over there as fast as he can. Come on, open up.
Keep your shirt on. I'm coming as fast as I can. What you want, kiddo?
Which is Miss Baker's room?
She's sick. Ain't having no callers.
I'm her doctor.
Oh, you can't fool me. Where's your little black bag?
If I had one, it would be around your neck. Now, March, show me the way.
You can't force me. I know my rights.
Oh, you do you? Well, it might interest you to know that your vents are faulty, your wiring is illegal, your drains are unsanitary, and your apron is dirty.
Them's rust stains. I'm neat as a pin.
You're as neat as a mud pie. Now, get going before I have the Board of Health down on you.
All right, but you can't make me climb them stairs.
Come on.
Got sciatica, I have. Here's the keys.
Okay.
First door to the right. And whatever she's got, I hope you catch it.
Thank you, Elsa Maxwell. She was stretched out on a bed, her left arm twisted under her and her right dangling over the edge. On the floor beneath it was an empty pill bottle. A few red capsules were scattered near it, and some more were spilled out among the bedclothes. It was a standard sleeping pill suicide scene, but I didn't believe it. The body was still warm, but no pulse. I didn't waste time giving her the mirror test. Instead, I looked around for a phone. It was on a table near a window. I meant to dial the police number, Sutter 12020, but SU was as far as I got. It felt like a bee sting or a quick jab with a needle. I spun around and swung out blindly. The face that I missed was suntanned under a shock of iron gray hair. It was wearing the same white-toothed grin that Dr. Ernst Wilhelm always wore for newspaper photographers. I started towards him, and he backed away, still grinning.
Come ahead, Spade. Come and get me, but hurry. You have only 20 seconds more. Shall I count them off? So far, you have 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
The floor kept dropping a foot at a time as I walked toward him. But every time I got to the bottom of the incline, it tilted up the other way, and I slipped back. He kept dropping out of sight, and every time I got him back into my line of vision, he was farther away. The walls of the room opened out and disappeared into some clouds. The ceiling spun around faster and faster until it whirled away like one of those flying discs. Then the floor turned into gelatin, and I sank into it.
The makers of Wild Root Cream Oil are presenting the weekly Sunday adventure of Dashiell Hammett's famous private detective, Sam Spade. Now, here's important news on good grooming. If you want the well-groomed look that helps you get ahead, socially and on the job, listen. Recently, thousands of people from coast to coast who bought Wild Root Cream Oil for the first time were asked, how does Wild Root Cream Oil compare with the hair tonic you previously used? The results were amazing. Better than 4 out of 5 who replied said they preferred Wild Root Cream Oil. Remember, non-alcoholic Wild Root Cream Oil contains lanolin. It grooms the hair naturally, relieves dryness, and removes loose, ugly dandruff. So if you want your hair to be more attractive than ever before, get the generous new 25-cent size of Wild Root Cream Oil, America's leading hair tonic, on sale at all drug and toilet goods counters. It's also available in larger economy bottles and the handy new tube. Get Wild Root Cream Oil. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. By the way, smart girls use Wild Root Cream Oil, too. And mothers say it's grand for training children's hair. And now, back to the Lazarus Caper. Tonight's adventure with Sam Spade.
The dream lasted about 300 years. Around Christmas time in the year 2247, another bee stung me. I opened my eyes, but the lights on the tree were too bright, and Santa Claus was bending over me with a brandy breath.
Come on, man. Come on. Little willpower. You're conscious. That's it. Sensation returning. Here, try and sit up.
The girl. How about her?
Too late. Did everything I could. Suicide pact?
Well, one of your brothers in Apollo was a little too handy with a needle. Here's the mark on my arm, and you'll find one on that stiff. Those sleeping capsules were a plant to make it look like suicide.
You'll be feeling better soon. Now, come along. Up on your feet. Must keep moving. Restore circulation. Hip. There.
Thanks. You the man Dr. Smith called?
Yes. So you're a private detective. How do you feel now?
I'm still dopey. You give me something to pick me up?
I've given you as much stimulant as it's safe to administer. For the rest, you'll have to sleep it off. And you will. I advise you to hurry home. Get into bed before this wears off.
How long have I got?
Couple of hours if you keep moving, maybe 3.
Yeah.
But if I were you, I wouldn't stay out. You don't want to fall asleep in the middle of Market Street, get run over by a bus.
Worst things can happen to you in your own bed. Look at her.
Murder? Think you can prove it?
I don't know.
I couldn't. Not on her. And I've been an autopsy surgeon for 20 years.
Well, cheer up, Doctor. If you miss on her, you may get a second chance.
Huh?
Yeah, me.
Those eyes are looking better. I think you'll live.
I wasn't so sure. Unless I could nail Wilhelm before my 3 hours was up, it was a safe bet he'd nail me again with that needle. He had done me one favor. He'd convinced me that my client was really the man he claimed to be and that Wilhelm and Emma knew it. My best hope of smoking him out was to dig out some solid proof. I spent 10 minutes of my 3 hours getting to the Hall of Records and 10 more finding out there was nothing there on Lazarus but his death certificate. I had a gander at the wanted file at police headquarters. They'd checked him out in August of 47 when the court had pronounced him dead. I looked at my watch. With 2 hours and 17 minutes of wakefulness left, I just didn't have time. I stopped by Lazarus's hotel, got a set of his fingerprints and several samples of his signature, took them to a penman I know down on the Mission, and between us we forged the most amazing set of documents ever assembled on one man. All dated, notarized, certified, witnessed, registered. One even bore the great seal of the state of California and the signature of the governor. I squeezed them all into a large briefcase, propped my eyes open with toothpicks while I drank half a gallon of black coffee, then phoned Dr. Wilhelm's night number. I told him I was one of Russian Leo's boys, and a cop had just winged me on the lam from a jewelry store job. He agreed to meet me at his office. Hello, Wilhelm.
Yes?
Is that all you got to say to the guy you knocked off an hour ago?
I'm afraid I don't quite follow. Who are you?
Look, I know that you know, and you know that I know. They even wrote a song about it. So let's get off the dime and don't reach for a needle. This gun is bigger and it shoots farther.
Well, I can see you mean business. What do you want?
First, I want to show you a few things. Here, take a look.
Well, this is very impressive.
Yeah, I thought you'd be impressed. You, need any more proof that Lazarus is Lazarus?
What's the matter, Spade? Getting sleepy?
Don't get your hopes up. I can squeeze this trigger in my sleep.
Are these papers for sale?
Why do you think I brought them to you?
What's the price?
Half the take on Lazarus's insurance.
That's very high.
I haven't finished. This time, Lazarus has got to be really dead, and you're going to do the job. Come on, stop stalling.
I can't do that.
Why not?
Why, Emma, she'll make trouble. She said she would.
She's still in love with him?
Why do you say that?
I just wondered. What reason did she give you for not wanting him knocked off?
Well, the cops work harder at identifying a dead man than they do a live derelict that looks and talks like a crank. I had the same idea myself.
Then you're stupid. With him dead, she can tell any story she wants to. With him alive and all this proof of identity, he's in a position to nail both of you for fraud, conspiracy, perjury. Shall I go on?
One thing. Does Emma know about these papers?
Sure.
You're lying.
Sure, I'm lying. And those documents are forgeries if that's the way you want it. I haven't got time to argue. I can't stay awake much longer, and you can't bring it off without me. I'll have Lazarus at my apartment in 30 minutes. Bring your needle and the 50 grand.
All right, Spade. I'll be there.
I made 2 phone calls on my way to pick up Lazarus, one to Emma and one to Lieutenant Erlinger of Homicide. Dundee was asleep. The lieutenant and Sergeant Poolhouse were perched on the fire escape outside my window, and Emma was waiting in the living room when we got there.
Tim. Oh, my poor darling.
Emma, you recognize me.
Of course, darling, from the beginning. But I didn't dare speak out in front of Ernst.
I know. Mr. Spades told me.
Now, listen to me, you two. You're sure you can go through with this?
Oh, are you sure there's no danger?
That's him now. Come on, Lazarus, get in the bedroom there. Now, do what I told you.
Don't worry, Emma.
Oh, I'm so frightened.
Quiet.
Hello, Spade. I got here just at... Emma, what are you doing here?
Mr. Spade phoned me. I agreed. It's the only thing to do. I wanted you to know that.
Well, I'm glad to see that you've come to your senses. For a while there. You see, you were wrong, Spade.
Did you bring the stuff?
Here's your money. I have the hypodermic in the case here. It's already loaded. We won't need a sterile needle. Where is he?
In there on the bed. He was asleep a minute ago. The grogginess that had kept coming back over me in waves for the last 2 hours swirled over me again as Wilhelm leaned over the bed where Lazarus lay, stretched out with his eyes closed. For a split second, I blanked out, and I was afraid it had already happened. But then I saw Wilhelm's hand coming down at an oblique angle toward Lazarus's forearm. Then my vision blurred again, and my arms felt too heavy to lift. It was Emma's scream that jolted me back. I clawed out blindly.
Drop it!
You let go of it! You get it in your own arm. Let go!
You swine! You double-crossing...
Now, here's a little sleeping medicine for you. Okay, boys. Come and get him.
Good boy, Sam. Good boy. We won't forget this.
Yeah, a likely story.
All right, get that broken glass, Polehouse. Put it in the Dixie cup. Now, handle it careful. You want to analyze that medicine.
You okay?
Who are these people, Sam? Accomplices?
Yeah, but not for homicide.
What about Ernst? They won't let him go free, will they?
Don't worry. He's out of circulation for good.
Mr. Spade.
Yeah, Lazarus.
I don't know how to thank you.
Yes. You don't know what this means to us.
Yes, I do. It probably means another long separation. The state prisons aren't co-ed. But if you insist on being alive, you have to take life as it comes. Period. End of bedtime story.
Oh, Sam, it's so sad. That poor couple, so much in love. But you had to do your duty, didn't you, Sam? They had to pay their debt to society, of course. That's why you had to be so hard and unrelenting and not give in to your better nature.
That's right. That's right. Never give in to the ship. Don't tread on me. It was Hobson. What was it that Hobson? You may fire when ready.
You know best, Sam. I'll just go type this up.
And now, listen to this. A good friend of the family. That's Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic, folks. Wild Root Cream Oil grooms the hair neatly and naturally, relieves dryness, and removes loose dandruff. Now, get Wild Root Cream Oil at your drug or toilet goods counter in a new 25-cent Get Acquainted bottle. Also, ask your barber for a professional application of Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first.
Sam, wake up.
Well, there, go away. Your apron's dirty.
Sam, I'm not wearing an apron.
Then why didn't you let me sleep?
Sam, you've got to wake up. Your coffee's here.
And tell them I'm in conference.
No, Sam, no. The black coffee. You said to order 3 gallons.
What?
I couldn't carry it all. I'll make another trip. 24 cardboard containers. You'll have to drink it up fast now. They're leaking already.
Abandon ship, all ye who enter here.
Oh, Sam, what am I going to do with it?
Open a restaurant. Good night.
Oh, good night, Sam.
Number 3 turret, open fire.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Dashiell Hammett's famous private detective, are produced and directed by William Spear. Sam Spade is played by Howard Duff. Lorene Tuttle is Effie. The Adventures of Sam Spade are written for radio by Bob Tallman and Gil Dowd. Musical direction by Lud Gluskin, with score composed by Renee Garrigang. Join us again next Sunday when author Dashiell Hammett and producer William Spear join forces for another adventure with Sam Spade. Brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. This is Dick Joy reminding you to...
Get Wild Root Cream Oil, Charlie. It keeps your hair in trim. You see, it's non-alcoholic, Charlie. It's made with soothing lanolin. You better get Wild Root Cream Oil, Charlie. Start using it today. You'll find that you will have a tough time, Charlie. Keeping all the gals away. Hiya, Baldy. Get Wild Root right away.
Keep it tuned right here to HOJO Radio for more classic old-time radio.
The Adventures of Sam Spade, Detective. Brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic, the non-alcoholic hair tonic that contains lanolin. Wild Root Cream Oil. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first.
Detective Agency.
This is Sam, Blackleg Spade, the third most dangerous gambler on the Barbary Coast.
Oh, Sam, not horses again.
Horses, women, and the gaming tables, Effie, the versions of the elite.
Well, divert yourself with this, Sam. The phone company has sent the pink notice.
Aha, pay it no mind, sweetheart. We are healed. We have hit the cashier's cage, annexed the pot, broken the bank, and we're standing on velvet.
Sam, are you sober?
Definitely velvet. Warm, too.
Sam, from where are you calling from?
You're wrong, Effie. It's a drugstore. Stay where you are. I'll be right down to deal out my report on the hot 100 grand caper.
Dashiell Hammett, America's leading detective fiction writer and creator of Sam Spade, the hard-boiled private eye, and William Spear, radio's outstanding producer-director of mystery and crime drama, join their talents to make your hair stand on end with the Adventures of Sam Spade. Presented by the makers of Wild Root Cream Oil for the hair. It's smart to buy things the whole family can use, isn't it? That's why I say it's smart to buy Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. To Mom, to Dad, to the children, Wild Root Cream Oil is really a friend indeed. Non-alcoholic Wild Root Cream Oil with lanolin grooms the hair neatly and naturally, relieves dryness, removes loose, ugly dandruff. I hope you have a big family-sized bottle of Wild Root Cream Oil in your home. Get Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. And now, with Howard Duff starring as Spade, Wild Root brings to the air the greatest private detective of them all in the Adventures of Sam Spade.
Date, September 19, 1948, to robbery detail, San Francisco Police, attention Sergeant Walsh. From Samuel Spade, license number 1375596, Dear Joe. Here's the rundown on that hot 100 grand. It started pleasantly enough when my secretary, Miss Effie Perrine, cute little mouse, eased into my private office, closed the door behind her, and leaned back against it with that air of pained resignation, which generally means there's a customer outside that she doesn't approve of, but that I'll see her anyway.
It's up to you, Sam. She's very well dressed, and I imagine she can afford you.
How do you deduce that?
Well, she dropped her purse. I didn't get time to count it all, but there was a $100 bill on top.
Well, sure, in, Effie.
Sam.
Go ahead, say it.
Oh, I don't know, Sam. Sometimes, well, there's just money.
No, that's one of the reasons I hire you. What's the matter with her?
Nothing. That's just it, Sam. She's very good-looking, cultivated, and very kind and considerate. And she seems sincerely troubled.
You mean her act is a little too good?
I felt that too, Sam.
Thanks, Angel. I'll keep that in mind. Tell her to come in.
All right, Sam. Mr. Spade will see you, Mrs. Kilcourse.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Spade.
My pleasure. Won't you sit down?
Oh, thank you. I'm Lorraine Kilcourse, Mr. Spade. It's about my husband, Leonard Kilcourse.
Husband? Oh.
We've only been married a short time. It was a quiet ceremony at the San Cedro Mission. Leonard didn't want to subject me to any publicity. The difference in our ages, you know?
You mean you want me to keep it a secret?
Oh, no, except for the newspapers, of course. Naturally, all of Leonard's friends know.
Oh, he doesn't have many, from what I've heard.
I've thought it strange, too, that such a prominent man should have such a small circle of acquaintances. I met him only a short time before I married him. He's been very kind and absolutely devoted to me, and I suppose I should feel ashamed of myself for coming to you. But there are so many things about him that are mysterious that sometimes I can't seem to find my handkerchief.
Here. Kleenex.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I take it you're not a San Francisco girl.
No, I met him at a dude ranch.
Well, maybe I can clear up some of your mysteries for free. The reason your husband doesn't have many friends is because they keep dropping dead.
I don't understand you.
Forget it. He's a big public servant. He's built a lot of sidewalks. The streets of this city are paved with his good intentions. His name is on 1,000 manhole covers. If the names of his former business associates land on headstones, it's nothing to me. I got my own racket. Well, what?
I think my husband is paying blackmail to someone.
Uh-huh. And upon what do you base your suspicions, Mrs. Kay?
It started about a month ago. He began withdrawing large sums from our joint account. First it was $10,000, then $20,000, and last week, $50,000. And this morning, he closed out the balance of the account. $100,000.
Yeah, well, he's got it to spend, Mrs. Kilcourse.
Well, I won't pretend the money doesn't interest me, but what's behind it, Mr. Spade? Each time he withdraws these cash sums, he leaves the house without a word to me. And sometimes doesn't return until dawn. My husband is not fond of nightlife, Mr. Spade. Only a desperate situation could induce him to leave the house after dark.
Yeah, so I've heard. They say that's how he kept his health as long as he has. All right, you want me to trail him, find out what he does with the money. Just one question. Why'd you pick me for the job?
Why, your reputation...
That's local. You say you're new in San Francisco.
Well, I do read the local papers. Your picture was in only 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, that caper didn't help my reputation.
I like your looks. A nice, honest face. A man I could trust.
Well, I don't buy that.
And I'm sentimental, too. Your picture reminded me of someone who was very dear to me. My brother. Of course, you're nothing like him, really, but you do look alike. I suppose that sounds like a silly woman's reason for...
Yeah. What's your address?
Well, I have a little place of my own out on Divisadero. The Belvo Apartments near Normandy Terrace.
Mm-hmm.
You'd better keep in touch with me there. I don't want Leonard to know. The Kilcourse mansion is at 1316 Clarendon.
1316. Mm-hmm.
He returns from his office around 6 in the evening. Do you have a car?
No. I need one?
Well, I don't know where he may go. Now, here are the keys to my car. It's parked in front of the main entrance, a gray Plymouth. He won't recognize the car. It's my brother's. Now, about your fee.
$100 now. If I need more, I'll leave you know. I had an uneasy feeling I would need more. The last detective that tried to follow Leonard Kilcourse had hospital insurance. I don't. But I'm a gambler at heart, so I parked Lorraine's Plymouth across the street from the Kilcourse mansion and waited. At 9 p.m., Mr. Kilcourse, much too old for her, came out the front door and flagged down a taxi. I made an illegal U-turn and followed. The trail ended across the Golden Gate Bridge in Marin County. It was a country club-type building on top of a hill overlooking the bay. It did business under the name of Ernie Nogales' Racket Club. The racket had nothing to do with tennis. It came from two sources. The moans and groans of the customers losing money at the roulette wheels and crap tables, and the glad hand the management threw at my quarry as I followed him in.
Well, Mr. Kilgore, surprised to see you. Since when you go out after dark?
Well, I thought a little nightlife might agree with me, Nogales.
Oh, that sounds like you, Mr. Kilgore. I didn't know you better. I think you was afraid to go out night.
Well, now, I was thinking of buying this place to retire to.
Ah.
But I figured it'd be cheaper to win it at your roulette table. What's your limit here?
10,000, but for you, wide open, the sky.
A hot $100,000 for a starter?
Well, any time they catch you with hot money, Mr. Kilgore. Come over to the cashier. I sell you the chips myself.
I didn't have to bother making myself inconspicuous. Everybody in the joint stopped playing to watch Kilcourse while he shoved his $100,000 roll through the cashier's window and scooped up 4 stacks of $1,000 chips.
Make your bets, please.
All right, you. Spin that wheel.
Huh? How much you got there?
$25,000. Any objections?
Is that okay, Mr. Nogales?
Spin it, Joe. I'm covering through the table personally.
Okay, sir. Around and round the little ball goes. 15 pays 15 and the red.
Maybe next time, Mr. Kilgore. Why don't you double up, play the red and the black? It's safer.
I'll stay with the numbers. 50,000 on 15. There. Spin it.
It's okay, Joe. I'm still covering.
Well, it's your money, Mr. Nogales. Number 4 pays. Number 4 and the red again.
Well, $25,000 more on 15.
Look, Mr. Kilgore, go on, enjoy yourself. Take it off your income tax, but please spread them out a little there, those chips, huh? It looks bad for the house.
What kind of a joint is this? Can't you cover the bets?
Okay, Joe. He asked for it.
Okay, sir.
I didn't wait to see where the little ball went on the last spin of the wheel. I would have made a side bet with any taker that Kilcourse wanted to lose that $100,000. I would also have made book he knew I was following him. As I left the table and walked out of the club, I braced myself for what usually comes next. There would either be a dead body in the car or somebody would crease my noggin with a sap. But nothing happened. I switched on the headlights and stood in the glare of them for fully a minute, but nobody even shot at me. I flushed the shrubbery. No gunman. Checked the ignition wires. No booby traps. Driving back to town, I racked my brain for some way to bring them out into the open. I felt like a man with his life savings all on one number, waiting for the wheel to stop spinning, which wasn't far from the truth. Not much of a cliffhanger, but the best we could do this week.
The makers of Wild Root Cream Oil are presenting the weekly Sunday adventure of Dashiell Hammett's famous private detective, Sam Spade. Now, here's important news on good grooming. If you want the well-groomed look that helps you get ahead, socially and on the job, listen. Recently, thousands of people from coast to coast who bought Wild Root Cream Oil for the first time were asked, how does Wild Root Cream Oil compare with the hair tonic you previously used? The results were amazing. Better than 4 out of 5 who replied said they preferred Wild Root Cream Oil. Remember, non-alcoholic Wild Root Cream Oil contains lanolin. It grooms the hair naturally, relieves dryness, and removes loose, ugly dandruff. So if you want your hair to be more attractive than ever before, get the generous new 25-cent size of Wild Root Cream Oil, America's leading hair tonic, on sale at all drug and toilet goods counters. It's also available in larger economy bottles and the handy new tube. Get Wild Root Cream Oil, again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. By the way, smart girls use Wild Root Cream Oil, too, and mothers say it's grand for training children's hair. And now, back to the hot $100,000 caper. Tonight's adventure with Sam Spade.
Yeah?
This Mrs. Kilcourse's apartment?
Yeah?
She here?
Yeah?
Well, can I come in?
Yeah.
Tommy?
Yeah?
Who is that, Mr. Spade?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the detective I was telling you about, Tommy. Remember?
Yeah.
The one who looked so much like you?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, excuse me. This is my brother, Tommy Lane.
Yeah. I mean,
Tommy, won't you run down to the corner and buy me some cigarettes for about 20 minutes? I have something to talk over with Mr. Spade.
Yeah.
nice boy, your brother. Small vocabulary, but big feet.
Well, he's shy. Now, what did you find out about my husband, Mr. Spade?
He dropped $100,000 in a gambling joint, Ernie Nogales' racket club. You know it?
No, but I know Ernie Nogales. I knew him in Reno before I met Leonard. He lost his license there for running a crooked wheel.
The way Kilcourse was playing tonight, that wheel didn't have to be crooked. He was trying to lose that $100,000.
But why? Why would he do a thing like that?
One of two reasons. Either he's paying off to Nogales or he's paying off to somebody else, and Nogales is the go-between.
Well, I don't believe it. Ernie is a crooked gambler, but he doesn't touch blackmail.
And your husband isn't stupid enough to drop $100,000 in 3 turns of a wheel. Anyway, I'm not tangling with him or the Ernie Nogales mob for $100 of your money or anybody else's. Here, take it.
Well,
and here are your car keys.
No, wait, please. You can't desert me now.
Why not?
Well, I haven't told you everything. I'd hoped I wouldn't have to.
About your brother?
How did you know?
The only place you get a green suntan is in a pokey. Besides, he acts kind of stir-crazy. Spent a little time in solitary, didn't he?
He won't talk about it. But that's it, Sam. That's why Leonard is paying that blackmail money to Nogales.
You just said Nogales wouldn't touch blackmail. Any other corrections you'd like to make in your copy before we proceed?
Yes. Well, I might as well tell you everything.
Why not?
I knew when I came to you this morning that my husband was paying this money to Nogales. I knew because I asked him to.
You and Ernie Nogales are working together?
I'm not that rotten.
I didn't say you were, but you're a rotten liar. There's that much in your favor.
But I'm telling the truth now, Sam. You must believe me. Everything that has happened is my fault. I persuaded Nogales to give my brother a job in his place in Reno.
Mm-hmm.
They quarreled, and when he got closed down, he blamed Tommy. He swore he'd kill him when he got out of prison. That's why I begged my husband to pay him to save Tommy's life.
Who did rat on Nogales about that crooked wheel at Reno?
I did. That's why I feel responsible. Leonard is so fine, so generous. But I can't let him go on paying for my mistake.
Yeah, like you said, he's going to run out of money.
Look at me, Sam. Do I look like the kind of a woman to whom money means everything in the world?
No, but you're looking at me, not at Kilcourse.
You're laughing at me. Oh, I know what you think. Perhaps I did make a mistake in marrying Leonard, but he was so kind, so considerate. Like my father.
Everybody reminds you of your relatives.
You don't believe my story?
Well, since you asked.
Well, all right, then, here's the truth. I'm really Jack the Ripper's granddaughter. My parents were terribly wealthy. I harpooned my mother in her Beverly Hills swimming pool, set fire to my father with a $50,000 negotiable bond, and eloped with John Wilkes Booth. That brings us up to 1865. Shall I go on?
Don't stop. It's great.
Oh, get out of here. Get out of here and leave me alone.
After you've told me all your secrets, I'm not that rotten.
You won't help me. You never intended to. Why go on torturing me?
Oh, now, stop that. Please. I believe you. I believe all your stories. Now, what is my next smart move?
Sam, the only way to stop Ernie Nogales is to prove that he's running a crooked wheel. And then he'd pay back all that blackmail money, and he wouldn't dare lay a hand on Tommy.
Well, it's going to be hard to prove and expensive. I'll have to lose a little on that wheel before I can figure the way it's rigged. How much can you invest?
Well, I have about $1,000 of my own.
With you?
Yes. Here, you take it.
Smells nice.
Sam.
Yeah?
Sam, after all this is over, and after I've put things to right with Leonard, I should have told him before this, but I owed him so much. Oh, Sam, I'm so glad it's you.
Yeah. Me too, Angel.
Go now, darling, before I beg you not to.
What time does that joint close?
Well, it runs all night, I think.
Good. Let's stay up late and raid the icebox. Around 2 in the a.m., when I low-geared the Plymouth up the long, steep driveway to Ernie Nogales' racket club, backed into the parking space nearest the road with the car headed downhill for a quick getaway, just in case, and I went in. The joint was still going full blast. I bought $500 worth of chips, swaggered over to the table where Kilcourse had dropped his $100,000, and nonchalantly flipped the blue chip onto the red.
Appalachia bets, ladies and gentlemen. Make your game. Okay, that's all. Around and round the little ball goes.
I didn't look to see where the little ball went. Most of the money was on red, so it was bound to turn up black.
A red pays.
What?
Number 15. Place your bets, please. Make your game, ladies and gentlemen. Around and round it goes.
The chips were spread around more the next turn, so I stacked 100 at the bottom of the 1 to 34 column. With a crooked wheel, my 100 made it the best bet to lose.
And 19, and the red wins again.
Hey! I plunked $500 down on number 5 and raked in $17,500. I left my original bet on the table. When the little ball fell into the pocket, I was $35,000 to the good from my point of view, but not from my clients. I doubled my bet and looked apprehensively around. There were no surly characters edging up behind me. In fact, the only surly character in sight was Ernie Nogales, and he looked happy. That didn't make much sense. When my bankroll got to $105,000, I played a hunch. I threw $5,000 of it back on the table and lost it. That made a kind of sense. I cashed in the rest of my chips and squeezed the $100,000 U.S. currency into my inside pocket. If anybody aimed for my heart, it was thick enough to stop the slug, which was some comfort. But what I saw when I walked out to the parking lot was no comfort at all. I'd gotten just a glimpse of it through some trees. A sedan backed into a driveway halfway down the hill. It was blacked out except for 5 glowing cigar ends that showed through the windows. I could think of only one reason for 5 cigar smokers to be parked in that particular spot at that particular moment. The Plymouth was where I had parked it, pointing straight down the hill. I slammed the door but didn't get in. Then I listened. The car down the hill was getting ready, too. I cracked the door of the Plymouth wide enough to get my arm inside and pressed the starter with the heel of my hand. I switched on the lights, pushed the clutch with my left hand, used my right to shift it into low. Then I pulled the hand throttle out all the way and let it go.
What's the big idea busting into my office?
We're going to have a talk, Nogales.
Please, don't wave that heater at me. It makes me nervous. I don't like guns.
I don't either. That's why I'm here. Put your hands on top of the desk and keep them there.
All right. Give me back that roll. I give you clean money for it. It was a gamble, so I lost. Can you blame me?
Where'd you get this money?
I buy it. 50 cents on the dollar. I don't ask where it came from, but I read the papers. I figured it was that shipyard payroll job a few days back. Like it just fell in my lap. I figured it'd make $50,000 instead of Kilcourse 5. I guess that was dirty trick you just out of stir, Tommy, huh?
I got news for you, Nogales. I didn't know this money was hot, and I am not Tommy Lane.
No? Then what?
Private Dick. Tommy's sister hired me to take the fall for him. Look, I've got most of the caper. Kilcourse wanted to pay Tommy $100,000. You rigged the wheel so Kilcourse would lose it one night and Tommy would win it back the next night. Now, what was Kilcourse paying him off for?
No caper, legitimate. He was sent up for bribing a public official.
You mean he was the payoff man for Kilcourse's contracting firm?
Sure, legitimate business. The grand jury went out after Kilcourse. Tommy took the rap, that's all, for a price.
Yeah, $100,000. Thanks, Nogales. That's all I needed.
Oh, Sam, I was afraid I might be too late.
You are, sweetheart.
Oh, I have so many things to explain. Where can you talk?
Right in here.
But who's this man?
Why, that's your old sweetie from Reno, Ernie Nogales, remember?
What's the matter with you two? You crazy?
Oh, Sam, I should have told you the truth from the beginning.
Check. The Nogales yarn, I can understand, but why did you tell me you were Kilcourse's wife?
I was desperate. I had to say something. It was the only explanation I could think of for my interest in this case without telling the truth.
But you were making a pigeon out of me.
I don't know about such things, Sam. All I know is I'm here in time to warn you. You mustn't walk out of here with that money.
Listen.
They may kill you to get it back.
They already did. They're combing the wreckage of that car right now, looking for my body.
Then Tommy was right. They did mean to kill him.
How'd he get the rumble?
While he was in prison, from another man that Kilcourse framed. He was in for life, so it was safe for him to talk.
Hey, you two.
Yeah, Nogales?
That car that just drove up. I think that's Mr. Kilcourse.
Oh,
Yeah, what's your hurry?
Let me go!
Come on, what's your hurry?
Tommy's out there in that cab. I've got to warn him.
Or a tip-off kill course. Which is it?
No, Sam, you've got to believe me.
Sit down. Stop that.
You two have fun. I'm getting out of here.
Go ahead. Now, listen, sweet Lorraine, you may as well save your breath for those explanations. You're staying right here until the cape is all wrapped up.
Here he comes. Have you got a gun, Sam?
Yeah?
Well, you'd better have it ready.
Mm-mm.
But Sam...
Where's Nogales? I want to see him.
He was called out of town, sir. I'm in charge. You Mr. Kilcourse?
That's right. I want to know why you people have been interfering with my business. It might interest you to know that this building site's on an old Spanish land grant. Title's very shaky. I'll run an 8-lane highway straight through the middle of it and turn the rest of it into a game preserve. That's what I do to people who double-cross me.
I tried to tell Mr. Nogales that, sir. He wouldn't listen to me. He tipped Tommy off for a split of the $100,000, but I knew sooner or later we'd have to answer to you, Mr. Kilcourse.
Oh, well, what's that?
Here's your $100,000, sir. Count it.
Sam.
Well. What's your name, son?
Sam Spade, sir.
Well, I'm glad to meet an honest lad. Well, come along. You too, young lady. We'll all walk out together.
Sam, what are you... What?
Spade, huh?
Yes, sir. I'm a private detective, but I'm ambitious.
Politics?
Yes, sir.
Well, we'll run you for assembly. In the meantime, I believe there's an opening in one of the public services. Garbage disposal. Executive end, of course. Where the devil is that man with my car? Oh, there he is. You drop around to my office in the morning.
Thank you, and good night, Mr. Kilcourse.
Drive on, Horace. Back to the city.
Oh, Sam. How could you? All those lies and just handing over the money like that. It wasn't yours.
It wasn't Tommy's either, sweetheart. Get in.
Well, Tommy, are you all right?
Yeah.
Drive us across the bridge, Tommy, will you?
Yeah.
Tommy.
Yeah?
Tommy, I'm afraid we'll have to do without the money.
Yeah?
Sam gave it to Mr. Kilcourse.
Yeah?
Now, don't get excited, Tommy. I'm sure Sam had a reason. Didn't you, Sam?
Yeah. I mean, that was marked money from a payroll job.
Oh, then it won't do him any good.
It'll send him up for a good long stretch if the eyewitness story that goes along with it is good enough. And you're just the girl to tell it, sweetheart. Am I right, Tommy?
Yeah.
Period. End of report.
Already? But Sam.
Yeah?
What happened? Who were the 5 men in the car, the ones who shot at that Plymouth in the mistaken belief that you were in it?
Their names are of little account, Effie. Suffice it to say that Kilcourse pointed his pudgy finger at them in the hopes of keeping the charge of attempted murder out of his indictment. But I was too clever. I identified them.
But, Sam, you didn't see anything but their cigars glowing in the darkness.
Have you never heard of Sherlock Holmes' monograph on the 49 varieties of tobacco ash, you fool?
But, Sam, Sherlock Holmes is only the segment of someone's imagination. He's a fictional detective.
Well?
You mean... Oh, Sam, you're tired.
Yes, I am.
It's affected your mind, winning all that money. Now, you just sit here and rest.
All right.
Think of the snowy mountaintops and blue skies.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go and type this up.
Snowy mountaintops. Winter sports yet.
And now, listen to this. If you haven't yet tried Wild Root Cream Oil, the famous hair tonic that grooms your hair neatly and naturally, relieves dryness, and removes loose dandruff, then here's a wonderful way to get acquainted. Buy Wild Root Cream Oil in the new 25-cent size bottle at your drug or toilet goods counter. Also, ask your barber for a professional application of Wild Root Cream Oil Hair Tonic. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first.
Well, here it is, Sam. And not that it made any difference, but how did you guess that she wasn't Mrs. Kilcourse?
Simple. Kilcourse didn't recognize her.
But, Sam, that was after you denounced her.
I did no such thing.
From the report, Sam, in black and white. Quote, why did you tell me you were Kilcourse's wife? Unquote. At that point, you assumed that she was not Mrs. Leonard Kilcourse.
I did not. I merely wondered why she had told me.
Well, with all the lies she told, you might have assumed anything she said was totally devoid of truth.
And I did, sweetheart. I did.
Oh, well, that's a relief. I was afraid for a while she'd taken you in.
What's that got to do with the truth?
Good night, Sam.
Good night, sweetheart.
The The Adventures of Sam Spade, Dashiell Hammett's famous private detective, are produced and directed by William Spear. Sam Spade is played by Howard Duff. Lorene Tuttle is Effie. Sadie Thompson appeared as Lorraine Kilcourse. The Adventures of Sam Spade are written for radio by Bob Tallman and Gil Dowd. Musical direction by Lud Gluskin. Score composed by Renee Garrigang. Join us again next Sunday when author Dashiell Hammett and producer William Spear join forces for another adventure with Sam Spade. Brought to you by Wild Root Cream Oil. Again and again, the choice of men who put good grooming first. This is Dick Joy reminding you to
Get Wild Root Cream Oil, Charlie. It keeps your hair in trim. You see, it's non-alcoholic, Charlie. It's made with soothing lanolin. You better get Wild Root Cream Oil, Charlie. Start using it today. You'll find that you will have a tough time, Charlie. Keeping all the gals away. Hiya, Baldy. Get Wild Root right away.
Thanks for listening to HOJO Radio. We'll be back again very soon.